good morning to everybody who is out there. Good morning to you, beautiful people. Hope you guys are having a fantastic, I'm talking about a fantastic Wednesday. What is it? August the 23rd. I got this down today. August the 23rd, as we are steamrolling through the rest of this month of August. Hopefully, get into September somewhere where we can actually get some cool weather. That would be nice. It rained yesterday. my poor lawn. My poor lawn is just that's pretty much dead, right? My lawn is gone. Like if you guys saw a picture of my backyard, it's horrendous. I one day I'm gonna take a picture of my backyard to show you how horrible it is. I probably need someone to come out there. It's bad, but nonetheless, I got some rain yesterday, and we all got a little bit of rain yesterday, but I forgot what that felt like. But that was kind of cool. And listen, man, we are here, man. Today, I gotta tell you, I got a jam-packed, action-packed show for you guys today. Like, you just do not want to go anywhere. You do not want to miss it. I've got guests lined up out the wazoo. I got a guest lined up that I just kind of got this thing within the last 30 minutes. I haven't even had a chance to promo it. So, I mean, I got everything going here. So, of course, we've got Chris Delcani, Texas Athletic Director. He's going to be in the house at 8:30 talking about everything Texas related, getting you guys fired up about the upcoming season. Surprise guest, Mike Hardge. Mike Hardge will be on at 9:15 today, this morning. So Mike Hardge makes an appearance here on the Old Fashioned Sports Show. 9:15 is going to be Hardge's appearance. And then around 10:20, I've got Ari Tempkin. Ari Tempkin from Sirius XM, obviously used to be a contributor here on OB Live, where before it was the Texas Longhorn Football Channel. But Ari Tempkin, he will be here. So I've got nothing but guests lined up, got nothing but things to talk about. Hell, I've got so many things to talk about. I forgot to tell you that I'm your host for the show, Anwar Richardson. This is the first time that you're listening to the show. I appreciate you joining in. Hopefully you like it. Hopefully you stay. Hopefully you become part of the family, because I consider everyone who listens to this and everyone who is in the chat part of the family. As you see, Chris Bennett is in there. Rodolfo finally got in first today. Rodolfo, you're finally back. But everyone here is family. And so I want you guys to kind of hopefully enjoy it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done that. I absolutely appreciate it. Like I said, I've got a lot of topics, a lot of things that I really can't wait to get into. We're going to have a fun show. And by the way, did you guys check out Alex's debut show yesterday? That thing was so good. I told you, like, Alex is so interesting to me. He's a fascinating person to me. Football with Friends from Alex Dunlap. That's obviously from 3:30. You can put it back up if you want to, Aaron. Football with Friends, 3:30 to 5:30. That he's had his debut show. The ratings were incredible for him. He's got such a unique personality. He's just so fun to talk to and get to know. And like I said, you got to see Alex. I think the good thing that I think we're learning about these shows, whether it's myself doing a show, whether it's Jason kind of being a frequent guest on these shows, Alex doing the show, I think you guys have had a good chance to see our different personalities. And it's fascinating to me because you don't necessarily get a chance to see all of that in the modcast. It's kind of, I feel like we all kind of defer, and kind of, defer to each other and try to play nice. And then you get us in our own zones, in our own elements, and all of a sudden you just see totally different people, right? And so that part has been good. So Alex did a great show. Obviously, that Chad and Jeff will be doing their show today. Jeff and Chad, however you want to do it, but they'll be doing their show today from 12 to 3. So lots of things that are going on. And guys, tonight the show as well. Can you put that show up for me as well? Do you have that graphic for me about tonight's show? Because I definitely want to make sure we promo that as well. Tonight, the OB Outsiders, they had a debut last week. This will be their second show this week. With Bo Edge, Chance Mock, the entire crew. That show gets started at 9 o'clock. Again, There's nowhere you shouldn't have to go anywhere today. You should not have to go to any other channel if you want to talk about the Longhorns, if you want to be able to talk about everything football related. Like, we have got you covered really from the morning until nighttime today for sure. So don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss any of that. And by the way, the last thing, again, guys, you guys are starting to file in. Crystal Conte will be here at 8:30. So what you need to do is just keep this up on your laptop screen. Don't close it out, because you never know if he needs to pop in early. It's a busy man. So if it's for some reason he needs to cut in early because he's got things he has to do, you just keep it up so you don't miss out on it by any stretch of the imagination. But he should be here at 8:30. And last housekeeping thing I need to do is make sure that you guys know that this portion of the show is brought to you by my main man, El Presidente, Eric Sells Homes, DFW. If you are looking for a home in the DFW area, like I always tell you, you don't have to look any further than Eric Sells Homes, DFW. My main man, he's got you covered. If you want to buy a home, when you're looking to sell a home, like whatever it is that you're looking for, he will take care of you. Honest man. He's also a Longhorn fan. He's predicting 12-0. So you need to check him out. Give him a call, or check out his website at Eric Sells Homes, DFW. People don't like it when I say, you know what, he's not traveling out to the Killeen. All the Killeen people get upset. All you little Killeen people get upset when I make fun of your little city. Y'all dirty. That's okay. Hardge is from Killeen. He don't like it when I talk about that. But yes, hit that man up as well. By the way, you guys are asking in the chat about questions. Will he take some questions? Depending on his time, he will take some questions. I'll see where it's at. I always tell you, super chats will get you to the front of the line. So if you definitely got something that you want to see, that you can throw it out there, or you can just put a super chat up, and we'll make sure that gets in there. But we're going to try to get some questions in. But again, it's going to be time dependent. Because again, he's got a season that's about to start. He's got a lot of things to do. I'm very happy that he's going to be on the show, but I also want to be respectful of his time as well. You know, if he's going to be on for like a 15 to 20 minute range. So there is that. Okay. So nonetheless, when we get there, that'll be exciting. And you know what? I'll be curious to see what he's wearing. Like what's he going to be dressed at? You know, Chad Hastings, he made a really, really good comment about, oh, this should be a well-dressed interview. I'm very curious as to what suit the man's going to wear, because he's definitely got the suit game on lock. I feel like I get dressed up good. I got to give it to the man. He definitely does get dressed up really good. All right. As we wait to kind of get into that kind of topic, one of the topics that I really wanted to get into with you guys today, and it's going to be about like a good problem to have. Like that's going to be the topic of this, where we start off in this opening drive, brought to you by my main man, Eric Sells Homes, is that there's good problems, right? And I feel like when I've started thinking about Steve Sarkisian and this team this year, again, as we're getting closer and closer to the kickoff versus Rice, I started thinking, you know, we always think about sometimes like the negatives, and, you know, sometimes you think about like, okay, can this team take the next step? Can this team go to the next direction, right? Can all the, you know, the things that about, can they go from 8 to 10? You know, can this defense step up? And then, you know, you start thinking about the problems, right? And I think that's natural as a sports fan. I think that's natural as a person. You start thinking about the obstacles that you need to overcome. And usually that's from a negative point of view. Like usually it's about all the bad things. You know, you have the conversations with, can Quinn be a better quarterback? Like, can Xavier, you know, be a better receiver? Like, it's all those kind of things. But I had a different thought process, because I started thinking about this team, and I started thinking the main particular thing for me was there's a lot of good problems that this team has. Like way more good problems than bad problems, in my point of view. And there is such a thing, as you guys know, as having like good problems, right? Like if you have multiple job offers, right? Someone is just offering you 3 different jobs, and you just try to figure out which one you want to take. You know, that's a really good problem. That's a great problem to have. If Blake and Aaron, and they've got some offers to be producers for ESPN or Fox Sports or CBS, and they're all the same. We'll pay you whatever you want. Like, that's a good problem to have, right? That's a great problem to have. Both of these guys I see in the background are like, yeah, we love to have that problem. Love to have that problem, right? If you want to buy a house, right, and you're looking at different homes, and each seller is throwing in like some great incentives to close the deal. Great problem to have, right? That's a good problem. Like, wait, this person's throwing in 5,000 in closing. This person's throwing in this, but they're throwing in appliances. Like, this person will leave on this particular date. Like, this person, like, those are great problems to have. I don't know if they still have those nowadays as a buyer. I feel like the problem right now is, of course, the interest rates. And then here, I thought about the last one. I thought about the greatest problem to have. The greatest problem for you as a fan. Like, it's a great problem to have. Texas beats Alabama in week 2, and all of a sudden, ticket prices go up on the secondary market. Now, that's a great problem to have, right? Because like the ticket's gonna get jacked up at some point, and so be it. But Texas beat Alabama. So at that point, it's a good problem to have. You're like, man, I got to spend a little bit more, but I'm spending a little bit more because ... This team is ranked, 5th in the nation. Everyone's talking about this potential being a playoff team. Like, you're okay at that point. It's a good problem to have. One that you should envision and embrace, because that'd be an awesome problem for you guys to have. And then I started thinking about Steve Sarkisian. And I started thinking about this current team and the current roster. And the problem that he has, which is a really good problem to have, is that he has so much talent on this year's roster that he's got some tough decisions to make this week. And what's up, Interstate? But he's got some really tough decisions that he's got to make this week. And you know what? Let's go back in time, because I always say we got to go back in the past to kind of appreciate what you have. Let's go back in time to when Sarkisian got here, and I started thinking of the problems that he really did have at that point. And by the way, if you just joined the show, Crystal Conte should be here within the next 15 minutes. But let's go back. Can we have an honest conversation? Can we have just an honest dialogue? Can we just finally, now that the dust is settled, now that everything's clear, right? And there's you should have no emotional investment in this conversation or debate. Can we finally admit that the battle between Casey Thompson and Hudson Card was really much to do about nothing? Can we finally have that? Because that was, that was a problem. Like, who's going to be the starting quarterback? It's going to be Casey Thompson, Hudson Card. It was like, tastes great, less filling. Like, and it was an entire battle of like people choosing sides, and this side and that side and that side and this side. And that's how this whole thing was going on. And can we just finally admit that was all said and done? There really wasn't a huge winner in that one. But Casey ends up leading the Big 12 in touchdown passes that season. But at the end of the day, kind of shoulder shrug it, right? We're just, like kind of, And so that was a problem, right? That was one of the problems that he had at some point. I started thinking about the other problems that he had at receiver, right? Just the whole receiver situation, right? And I'm not trying to have anyone catch any strays this morning, okay? They had Xavier Worthy in year 1. And I looked it up. I started looking up who the other receivers were. Cavante Dixon, Marcus Washington, Kai Money. You also had the Casey Kane in there. Casey Kane's done a really good job, obviously, in training camp. But when you start thinking about receiver battles, right? Right. There's nothing that you look at and you say to yourself, like, wow, that really produced a whole lot of something. You just looked at, well, thank God for Xavier Worthy, because you don't know what that passing game would even look like without him. Like that's all you were left with when it was all said and done. Like that was it. That was the problems. Like, that was the problems. Oh, yes. And there was a Joshua Moore in there as well, which, yes, that was a problem. That was a problem for a totally different thing, right? That was a problem. That was a real problem. But yes, you also had Joshua Moore. Thank you, Kobe, for pointing that one out. But think about much to do about nothing. when it was all said and done. And then also you start thinking about like, some of the battles like on the edge position. Like who's gonna have on the edge? And at some point, Ray Thornton ends up being the guy that emerges on the edge. And we heard all these things about how he was dominating in practice, how he was just that man in practice, right? Like, oh, Ray Thornton, man, woo! It made it sound like he was bringing the pain. Like they made it sound like he was bringing the thunder. Like they made it sound like, man, Ray Thornton was going to be something special coming off the edge. And then at the end of the day, right? Shoulder shrugged it. We shoulder shrugged it. You just, that's what you guys were talking about, huh? I'll give you a couple of more. A couple of more of these problems that we had going into previous seasons. Because this to help you appreciate where you are right now. Like if you want an appreciation for where you are right now and the conversations that we are having right now, let's go back in the time machine and let's go and hop in the DeLorean, put some trash in there, and let's go ahead and kind of have the conversation now. Luke Brockemeyer was a guy that, okay, what's he going to be able to do? He was in the mix, right? Good, adequate, BJ Foster, Brendan Schooler, they got the most out of Brendan Schooler that probably anyone was able to do. They got a lot out of him. And he was able, I think at some point he got signed by the Patriots as an undrafted guy. But these are the names. These are the names. These were the guys who were playing for the University of Texas. These were the starters for the University of Texas. You guys are all in the chat laughing. Like you guys are laughing when I put in front of some of these names in there. You guys are so mean. And you better not say anything disparaging about my main man, Charles Wright. I will fight you for Charles Wright. Leave. I know you guys. Don't say anything about Charles Wright. He might be. Okay. He's a QB. Don't y'all say anything about my main man, Charles Wright. I'm going to get him on the show. In fact, I'm going to give Charles Wright an NIL deal. No, I hope Charles Wright takes it all in jest. I don't want to go out to practice one day and just get sucker punched by a guy wearing number 14 or whatever. I think that's his number. I hope it is. And the one thing I'll give, I say one thing, I give Steve Sarkisian credit for a lot of things, but the one thing I will give him credit for, and the one thing I will always respect about him, and the many things I will, but the one thing I like to point out to you guys is that he never complained about the roster that he has inherited. He would say hey, this is not necessarily how I would have built it, but he was willing to work with it. And I will 100 respect his approach on that. That he never, to this day, has ever said anything negative about Tom Herman or anybody else on the staff. Not one time. Not one time has that been said. And I'll be honest with you, I can't say that about those guys, whether it's Tom Herman or whether it's Charlie Strong. When Charlie Strong was here, he let it be known he didn't really like those Mac Brown players. They're soft. That was kind of the thing. They're soft. These aren't tough guys. Got to make them tough, right? And he let it be known. And it was kind of like a little bit of a jab, that happens. That's what sometimes these coaches do, to kind of jab at the predecessor. Tom, we already know how Tom felt about the Charlie's guys. How now that those guys were soft and how they had to toughen them up. Guys need a P chart, man. These guys need to know. He let it be known, these guys, sit the F up in the meetings. He's got to whip these guys into shape. All these kind of toughen them up kind of things. Let it be known, those guys, no, that cake ain't baked. He may have said it was baked. That thing is, we still working with the dough, right? And Sark has always taken the high road on that. He's always just been a person that said, let me put my head down and do what he does best, which is recruit. That's what he does best. What does he do well? What is he known for? What is his reputation? What is his MO? What's the darn thing that he does better than just about any other coach in the country? Probably one of the top as far as recruiters in the country as a head coach. He recruits, and he recruits his ass off. That's what he does. And not only does he recruit from the high school level, but the transfer portal has been something that has worked to his advantage and has helped him go even to another level as far as recruiting is concerned. And so now we start talking about, as we're in training camp and we're getting closer to the start of the season, now we're starting to talk about good problems that the University of Texas has, because all the players that I was previously named that you guys were just laughing at and being so mean and just so disrespectful, just so disrespectful. Now we start talking about good problems. Now we start talking about adding in 5 stars. We see DJ Campbell comes in 5-star. Kelvin Banks, he was a 5-star for other publications. Arch Manning, Jonte Cook, Anthony Hill, in the future, Colin Simmons. Now we're starting to talk about a good problem to have, right? Now, all of a sudden, I start thinking about what are some of the good problems that he has, the good stuff that he must deal with at this moment. Here's a good problem that Sark has. He's got to decide whose backup quarterback's going to be. Now, here's the thing. Typically, we never really care who the backup is. It's the guy who loses a job, and it's kind of like, all right, well, you have to get that job, right? And so, and by the way, Buck Wild, I see it, Chris, I see your question, and I will make sure that gets on the screen. I will make sure. So yes, your super chats will get you in first. So thank you, Buck Wild. And guys, just remind me of those as well. So Buck Wild, I'll make sure that question does get asked. Okay, not a problem. We typically the guy who's the backup quarterback. That's a person that you just, like I said, they get the job by default. Like, Hudson wins the job, so Casey gets it. Casey has a job, Hudson gets it. It's Sam that wins the job, so who else gets it? Right there. We haven't really since I've been here. Like, and I'm being like serious, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we haven't really seen a huge battle for the number 2 quarterback position. The number 2 quarterback position is usually a position by default. There's the backup guy has usually just been, the second best guy. And the third person has literally been a person that you would just say to yourself, like, they should just be happy to have a scholarship at the University of Texas. But that person is probably never really ever going to see the field. And yet we've actually are seeing a real legit battle to determine who actually is going to be the number 2 guy. That I haven't seen that. That's a good problem. Y'all leave Charles Wright alone. I'm telling you, I'm going to come through here. I'm going to fight you for Charles Wright. Think about the running back room. Like, we're talking about a really, really good battle, right? Because we know Jonathan Brooks is probably going to be the number 1 guy. Like, we've kind of wrapped our head around like he's the starter, and that's what it is. But then there's been this good battle for the backup position. Because you had Bijan Robinson, of course, and then there was this Roschon Johnson after that. Like, that was but this wasn't really a battle. And now we're looking at Jonathan Brooks, but we're looking at other guys that you say, man, those people can push him at some point. And now what is it going to look like when you've got, CJ Baxter in there, you've got the Keelan Robinson in there, you've got the Jaden Blue that's in there, and then what does it look like when Savion Red comes back, right? We're talking about a good problem to have for the running back position. All of a sudden, we look at the offensive line room, and you say to yourself, "Oh, my goodness, these are good problems to have," because now DJ Campbell slipping in at the guard position. That's a good problem to have. Cam Williams on the outside looking in. That's a really, really good problem. All the other guys who are the backups in that top 8. Now all of a sudden, we think about what the offensive line looked like years. I'm talking about years. It's just been, eh. You know, Ketch and I, we used to have this debate over whether Zach Shackelford was a good offensive lineman. Just we debated the word good as relates to Zach Shackelford. Is he good? Now, I always said he was good. Ketch didn't feel like he was good. And we had a debate over like what does that look like and what does good look like. But then all of a sudden you've got now so many guys in there, so much talent that's in there. Talking about these are very, very good problems to have. Gunnar Helm. We're talking about Gunnar Helm, right? That's a very good problem to have when you've got Jatavian Sanders and you know he's already that guy, and now the backup of him, Gunnar Helm. Like, what does that look like? More good problems. And by the way, we're about 3 minutes away from Chris Del Conte. All right, so I know you guys are like, man, shut up, man. Where's Del Conte? Hey, I got to do a show. I got a text message from somebody. One of my friends just texted me. I don't want to call him out, but he just texted me, sending me a Seinfeld Costanza gift with George eating a popcorn saying, I'm ready for CDC. Well, damn it, man. Who am I? I got no love. I can't get no love. Good problems to have on a defensive line, right? You've got this. Now we're talking about Alfred Collins, who I tell you before was seemingly left for dead, and all of a sudden the staff comes in and they're able to go ahead and get the most out of him. And now we're talking about Alfred Collins. We're talking about Vernon Broughton. We're talking about Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat. Like, all of a sudden, we're talking about this really, really great problem, good problem to have when you start talking about the talent that's there within there. We start talking about the linebacker position, right? Like, beforehand, it was who? And now you're just like, man, who could it be? Like, we're talking about the Anthony Hills. All of a sudden, Sarkisian has been talking about a Leona Lafau and how he's been stepping up. That's in addition to the guys that they have. Like, again, we were at a point just a couple of years ago where we were just talking about, well, there's DeMarvion and I don't know. And now you're telling yourself, like, this DeMarvion happens, Jalen Ford happens, and now you just keep going through the list of all these young guys that Sarkisian keeps praising and say to yourself, man, that's a good problem to have. That's an absolute great problem to have when it's all said and done, right? I'll give you a couple more. Just a couple of more. And I appreciate you guys hearting me. And by the way, John, you let me know whenever the man is ready to go. And then whenever he's ready, you just let me know. Oh, he is there. Okay, well, then I can stop filibustering. He is there. All right, let's do this. Let's go to a quick break. And then when we go after this quick break, we will come back. The man with mask plan. Let's see how he's dressed. Let's see what his suit game is looking like. I'm expecting to be impressed, as you will. So let's do this quick break, and as soon as we come back, we'll bring in Chris Del Conte.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the best recruits from the Charlie Strong era, wide receiver Devin Duvernay. Duvernay was one of the top prospects that the Longhorns signed in the 2016 recruiting class, but his pathway to the Longhorns was as unconventional as anyone in that class or almost any other. The number 52 overall player in the country, number 5 player in the state of Texas, and number 8 wide receiver in the country per Rivals, the high 4-star super blue chip had one doozy of a recruitment. Before he attended a Texas Junior Day in February of 2015, he told Orangebloods' Jason Sukumel that the Longhorns were front and center in his recruitment. Quote, "They're in it. I like Texas. Grew up liking Texas," Duvernay said. "When I've been there, I like them. With the new staff, I like what they're doing. I think the program will be back pretty soon." Yet Baylor, the first school to actually offer Duvernay a scholarship, was always a school that had his attention. It also had his brother Donovan's attention as well, as he made the jump to commit to Baylor in September of 2015. 2 months later, Devin joined him, choosing the Bears over Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. That's right, no Texas among his initial group of finalists. That was pretty much that for Duvernay, as he signed in February of 2016 with the Bears. But Duvernay decided to explore other options after a sexual assault scandal surrounding the Baylor program and the subsequent firing of head coach Art Briles. It was later discovered that Duvernay's national letter of intent was never properly submitted by Baylor, making him immediately open to other programs. After not having the Longhorns among his original finalists, Duvernay signed with the Longhorns in June of 2016. And once Baylor released his brother, he also joined the Longhorns 2016 recruiting class. When it was all said and done, Baylor's loss turned out to be one hell of a game for the Texas football program, who added one of the best receivers in school history.
Pretty awesome. Thank you, Jeff Ketchum, for that flashback. All right, it's time for us to go into our Speakeasy Lounge and bring in the main man, the orator, your leader, Chris Del Conte. Good morning, Chris. How are you?
I like the music, the Speakeasy Lounge. Real nice, Anwar.
I thought, as a man who's got the taste, and of course the nice beverages behind you, if anyone could appreciate the Speakeasy Lounge, you could.
Well, we should not think that I'm out here drinking at work. These all have a story because I have Coach Royal's desk. Yes. And in my desk, when I got it, they told me about the bottle of Jack Daniels. So everyone's been sending me their favorite booze bottles. I'm like, okay, just put them behind me. It's ridiculous.
That's okay. Everyone's kind of measuring. Every time you go and do a show, everyone's measuring to see how much is there and how much is it. Speaking of,
in high school, you put a little bit in there when your dad left.
Yes.
Boy, you never knew.
So I've got a question for you, Chris. I want to start off. I want to know either how the couch is feeling for you or how the doghouse is feeling for you, because you got into the doghouse pretty recently with the wife. Go ahead, guys, put that on the screen. You got in the doghouse a little bit recently because you posted something, and you posted about the anniversary, Chris, but your wifey wanted to let you know that there was a better picture that you could have posted, like the one from Destin.
Here's the worst thing about that, Anwar. That picture on the left, it was from like 7 years ago in Hawaii. It was just, it was on we renewed our vows. I thought she would be like a cool thing to do. She lost her mind. What are you doing? Then fires this off. Then I get home and just got absolutely chewed out. You got to find a better pay. I'm like, honey, I thought I was doing something. So you know what? Just the idea of trying for something. Yeah. So yeah, of course my girls are like, Dad, Mom dislikes that picture. I go, well, take it off my phone. Like, yeah, yes. No
that's pretty awesome. Well, congratulations on another year of matrimony. Chris, let me start off a little bit on a serious note before we kind of get into some of the other topics. But the Longhorn family, you guys just had a major loss with the passing of Bill Little. He's a person that you were able to get a chance to know. Like, what can you say about Bill and then the legacy that he leaves at UT?
It was interesting and a great question, Anwar, because he was like a Wikipedia and an encyclopedia all wrapped in one for me. I'd gotten the job here, and he had already retired, and we had the great Juan Carlos here, John Bianco, working. But every time I got and it was just, I would call him, and he was so gracious with his time, so gracious with his stories, but he knew where everything was buried and knew the history behind it. So I would say, what happened here? And he'd go, oh, not so fast, this. He's just a Texas treasure. And you think about a guy that served this institution for 50 years, there's none better. And, he started out like you in the newspaper business, and worked his way up and then came back home. And he was instrumental to me in a lot of ways. And when we had Augie's funeral, he was right here. You think of Gus, everything we needed since I was bigger. And I hate to say it, it was always around things that we needed healing. He would say, I got the right thing for you to say, or let me do it for you, and here's what to do. And it was just, he's going to be sorely missed.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, rest in peace, Bill. And my condolences to you and your Longhorn family. Chris, I think congratulations is in order. Apparently, drinks are going to be on you because there's things came out this week that
Nice.
UT has recommended an extension, keeping you around to 2030. You've come in here. You've done a lot of great work, obviously, since you've been in here. Just give me your thoughts and impressions of what it means to you that UT wants you around here, and clearly you want to be around here for a long period of time.
I mean, this is an incredible place, and I was honored when the opportunity came to come work here. You serve a passionate people, and I tell everyone, the enterprise of working here is I run an enterprise based on people's passion, and rational people become irrational when it comes to their passion, and whether it be our student athletes, our coaches, our institution, the nation. That's why Darryl Royal had always that saying about when the babies get out of the box. And it's really about us just harnessing our passion. And if we harness our passion the right way, we have so many things that could happen. And when I look at having the uniqueness of having Kevin Altype as our chairman of the board and President Hartzell, it has been just who you work for and who you serve matter. I work for great people and I serve an unbelievable institution. And people always talk about, boy, is it crazy? No, there's one thing that I love. There's two emotions that I love. I don't love, but I understand them: love and hate. Apathy, if you work in a place that's apathetic, you have no chance of ever harnessing something great. And when you look at our history, when we harnessed our passion, it's a reckoning. And who you work for and who you serve allows things to happen. I'm glad they thought I'd be a decent job, that they could stay around a little longer. I'm pretty fired up about that.
Well, I mean, Chris, one of the things that you've done a lot of things well since you've been here, obviously with the facilities, the fundraising and stuff. But the thing that has impressed me the most about your job and your tenure here is, you created a really lively atmosphere inside and outside of the stadium. That was something when I got here, I would go to games, Chris, and this is my opinion, I would say it's kind of boring sometimes. And you really have been able to liven it up outside with, of course, the Longhorn City Limits, bringing that in, of course, the Beeville Boulevard, the Smokies Midway. And now you have created this buzz with these lights. Like, everybody keeps asking me about these lights and what's going on in there. So tell everybody what you've got planned. Everyone keeps showing about red lights, and what are some of the enhancements that you're going to have inside the stadium for this season, maybe even outside as well.
Well, it's interesting, and I'll just take the how I go about my business. If we go on the road, and it's a night game, I get there really early. We have our own senior staff, and I say, okay, I'm going to go walk the parking lots and see what they do well in terms of how they do tailgating or what they do. You go listen to in-game music. You go look at the food. You go look at production. We take copious notes from the time I get to the stadium till the time we leave. Then on Monday, we sit down and say, what do they do well? What can we incorporate? I refer to it as R&D, rip off and duplicate. And you start to put things in your own toolkit. I think at Iowa State, they did something really well. Boy, I like that. I wonder if we could do that. Well, the lights, I saw the LED lights going around going, boy, that'd be really cool to do. But then we got hit with COVID. We were going to put it in a couple of years ago. We got hit right with COVID, and we had a shortage because of the delay in Asia getting the product. So it just took us a little while to get here. But I saw what other schools are doing, and it was really mainly my good friend at Alabama had started. He's the first one to do it. He goes, what do you think? I go, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. But I had to wait, and we just got stuck in a bad time. So I'm excited for that. There's so many other things that we're doing that we're just trying to create an opportunity for our fans when they come to the 40 acres, that they say this is an incredible experience. And Anwar, as I told you before, I mean, I went to Disney, and I studied the Disney experience from when you get your tickets to when you get to the hotel, when you get to the amusement park. They create an experience that when you leave, you go, boy, I stood in line for 3 hours at the Matterhorn, but it was an amazing time. Well, you can always glean things from that. And I'm always one to always look around and try, and our team, to find things. So I'm really happy for Drew, happy for Chuck and the entire team that's really worked their tail off. And we have a lot of new surprises this year. I can't wait for the Wyoming game because it'll be our first night game. And by the way, Anwar, before you ask, I had nothing to do with a 2:30 start. I'm just getting smoked right now. And I'm like, I got it. We got water everywhere. They don't want to hear it.
Yeah, well, it is. Your coaches had to adjust, obviously, your football coach, and have practices in the afternoon to adjust to that.
Right.
So yes, the 2:30 start is not ideal, nonetheless, but it's going to be hot nonetheless. I mean, remember the LSU game? That was a night game, and that was hot. That was 100 degrees. So there's nothing you can do in September, Chris.
And the LSU game was hot. That's the first year that we try to do a general admission student ticketing. We actually had 116,000 people in the stadium.
Yeah.
We sold 110,000 beers that day. And I was like, this is because I get after every game, I get a concession report so I can gauge what to drop and not drop or what to add. And I remember thinking that's ridiculous. It's just like, what?
Well, if you're looking for things to add in the future and you want to do certain things, on our show, we have this thing called Super Chats. And what Super Chats are, Chris, because I know you let the young people do their thing, it's when you see the chats on the side, but people can actually pay money and then they can have questions come up on the screen if we want to. Good fundraiser. So in other words, I've got a couple of people
on the scoreboard
on the screen in front of you.
No, I see that. I thought you were asking me to put that on. Can you imagine the scoreboard? We're going to get a Super Chat. I'd be getting just smashed. What are you doing this?
No, your Twitter is bad enough sometimes on game days. I'm talking about some true super chats on the screen. So, on the screen right here, go ahead, Blake. Go ahead and put the first one up. There's a good question for you. It's from a guy named Buck Wild Longhorn. Question for CDC. And so you see, he spent $10 to ask you a question. The south end zone looks amazing, but on game day, it always appears empty. Is there any plans to change that? Thank you for all your hard work for the University of Texas.
And I've heard the complaints, Anwar, loud and clear, and I get it. And one of the things we looked at, what I've been trying to do here when I got here, is that when here we had about a $300 million debt to our athletic department for all the facilities we built, and they weren't fundraised; they were bonded over a long period of time. When you look at the east side, or you look at the Cooley, or you look at the renovations for all our facilities, it was really, they took just a long-term bonded debt out. And one of the things I didn't want to do was add to that debt, because the quicker we can pay that off, the more limbo we could be. So the south end zone, we came up with a funding model, which was we had our 8 suites. Those people were unbelievable. Then we had our founders suites, our lows, and our lower bowl seating. And I understand the idea, but it was a funding model to build the football operations building without adding any debt to our long-term debt. If you're carrying debt of a significant amount, you don't want to do that. You want to pay that down quicker so you could become more nimble, and your operation budget is really affected by that long-term debt. So we took short-term paper, figured out a way to do that, and that lower bowl seating was an incredible idea, how to help fund that with a bar down below and seats up top. Well, the first year we figured out they love the bar better than they do their seats. And everyone's on my ass about it. I'm like, God, I get it. So now, just like the Oscars, now we're having fillers. So we have students come in and we're filling seats and they move around. So you saw last year we did a better job of when someone goes to the restroom in the Oscars, someone takes their seat. Now we're having student fillers so the heat can get off me. But the original concept was a good idea in just the way we could raise the money. You can give these great amenities for them. They're right next to the fans or underneath, and they realize, boy, it's hot outside. And as we get later in the year, the gray seats get filled up. It's early in the fall where they stay down below, and some of our clubs are the same way. But we have 10,000 club seats, but the seats are so higher up they don't see them all the time in the camera view. And this is right in the camera view, and I get the energy about that. So. It's actually loud down there because of where the fans sit in the tunnel, but because the way it looks on television, if you got my man here, Buck Wild Longhorn, hanging out at home, he's ripping me a new one because all he sees is a seat. So we're going to have fillers in right now, and we'll be all right.
All right, there was another super chat that came in, Blake. Go ahead and put that one on the screen. This is from Paul. Question for you, CDC. He goes, where do things stand on bringing a grass field back to DKR?
As soon as possible. But what we have to do first is we have to build the indoor first. I have to get the indoor, so we'll start construction this coming June on the new indoor where the School of Social Work is. Once we build the indoor, we got a full field. That's so everyone knows, a full indoor field, a 4 outdoor practice field, an underground parking garage underneath, and some amenities that we're going to add for game day as we walk down Bevo Boulevard. That will allow then me to get, it's not the band as well as the football team out, because once you go to natural grass, the amount of usage, when I was at Texas Christian U, Anwar, we were only on the stadium 6 times a year for football games and only practice in the fall on Thursday for walkthrough. So we were only on that stadium 12 times a year plus spring game.
Wow.
Think through the usage of 100,000 seat stadium 12 times. We were never in there. Mm-hmm. And that's the reality of the field. So we're going to go to grass. We're going to do it, but I need to do it in an order because the band also does more damage than the football team because they stand in one place and move.
Yes.
So you think, why? It's some of the tuba players. They got 100-pound equipment on them. They're just standing in one place. And the reality is, once we have the indoor right there where they can walk back and forth, the band can use it, our team can use it, and it's also summer conditioning workouts. Mm-hmm. Where Beckton has to have a place to go that's close by. So we've been using the stadium this way. So I anticipate the indoor starting in the summer of 24 and be ready for the spring of 26. That fall of 26, we'll start with indoor. I mean, that January we'll go indoor. This can take about 5 months to do it too. Take the base down, put all the stuff back in, build it back up. So I would think January of 26 is when we would start, if everything goes according to plan, we would start for the fall season of 26 with grass.
That's awesome. By the way, Gavin, I see that you put $50 in the super chat. So you just got to make sure you put your question next so we can get to see, Chris, if you did something like this and that let's say you did a forum and then had that money go there. Like, I'm just trying to tell you, say you watch different things. I just gave you another fundraiser right there, Chris.
I appreciate you looking out, my friend.
Okay. Let me just get a couple more before I let you get out of here. Blake, we had a really good one that was on our website, Aaron, and it's a really fascinating question. And go ahead and put that on the screen for me, Aaron. So this was someone on our website had a question for you, and I thought it was fascinating, Chris. He goes, in this new world, he wants to know how you and the athletic department balance supporting NIL funding initiatives with your typical Longhorn Foundation, normal course operations, CAPEX investment initiatives, etc. It's like, what's your guidance to the average fan in prioritizing where their funding / donations are being directed to support athletics?
Well, it's interesting. That's a great question, Anwar. And I think part of the situation is where your passion lies. Anytime someone comes and says, hey, I'd like to support your program, we allow the donor to determine where that goes. I think one of the things that was really interesting to me and unique to me was when the president 2-3 years ago said you could no longer deduct your seating in the stadium as a 100% tax deductible gift. Priority seating was no longer deductible, and that was probably at the end of Trump's presidency when they passed that bill. That really changed my mindset too about this is really about an entertainment spend, because forever, Anwar, we had been built around you support the football program through priority seating. You help golf team. You have which is true to this day. Mm-hmm. All football revenue supports all 20 of our sports. And we're really, really good at all of our sports right now. Yeah. We have great coaches, great student athletes, and we're recruiting really good kids. And it's because of that revenue that's allowed to do that. But when they changed the deduction, we had to change our mindset. And that was, I remember the conversation I had with the chairman Altai and President Hardge was, look, guys, I get where we're at. Here's our funding model. And we bounce ideas constantly off each other because I'm myopically, I'm at only looking at athletic department. Mm-hmm. Mr. Hardge, so President Hardge is looking at the institution as a whole, and the chairman looks at the state and our regions from that perspective. So we're always looking at the effects and cause and effect of conversations, and it's really a great position to be in. But once they changed that, we had to go to then now this idea. So when a donor says, I really want to help NIL, Texas One Fund, fantastic. That's awesome. They want to help us, but it's really the donors' charge. I think we're very fortunate at the University of Texas that we have a very passionate fan base, and you should give to where you think your passion lies. I'll never try to steer anybody one way or the other.
All right, guys. Hey, look, Chris is going to have to go soon. So I appreciate the super chats. Don't put any more in. He does have to do a job this week. He's got a lot of things to handle here. So let's get the last two in here. Gavin, and you can go rapid fire on this, Chris, if you need to. He asked,
we got 10 minutes.
Okay. Speaking of the Wyoming game, Chris, he goes, I'm taking my son to the game for his birthday. What is the best place to sit or for him to interact with players looking at the seating for that game?
It's interesting. Players, I would try to get on Beebles Boulevard early.
Yeah.
So you can see them walking down, because once the game starts, unless you're right behind the bench on that side, you just have the interaction is difficult. So I'd look at Beebles Boulevard and then look at a way that get close as you can. If I buy a ticket behind the Longhorn bench, but those are seats that have already been sold out for years. So. And then look at, depending on how old your kid is, why wouldn't you get him to run out with the herd at halftime, at the beginning of the game? Having him run with the herd is pretty awesome as well.
Tom G says, hey, welcome CDC. Love what you do for the University of Texas. But he does say stadium parking is a nightmare. Any plans on how you might address this in the future?
Yeah, I understand that, Tom G. Here's the problem. We are an unbelievable urban stadium surrounded by parking garages. We have 40 acres, and only place you can go is up. And we used to have, it's like we took lot C away for the Moody Center. I'm like, and I didn't really understand that was really our only really closest surface lot to the football stadium. Yeah. So, and now we're, with President Hardge's leadership, man, we're in the middle of bringing MD Anderson to Austin. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
MD Anderson's coming on, and well, guess what? The Irwin Center and the Irwin Center parking goes away for the hospital. So anytime you have a lot of parking garages, the parking's gonna be a problem because you can't get out as quick. You got to come down. It is, and I don't control parking. We're working our tail off with UTPD, the city police department. And they're down about 400 police officers right now. So you think about when they're down 400 police officers, the last thing they want to deal with is a Texas football game in and out. You know what I mean? So it's real. We're fighting a shortage that's really problematic, whether it be on campus. And President Hardge has really done a good job of hiring another safety group on top of it to come safety in West Campus because of the reduction of police force in our great city. And when we're down 500 police officers, it's going to affect what we do on game day traffic when they don't have the people. They're here to serve and protect. And it's a problem.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for that, Tom. Last question I have, Chris, and I will definitely let you run on this. I do have to ask you a football question. Obviously, the season gets started next week, but this is also big picture. This is also year 3 for Steve Sarkisian. A lot of hype, a lot of anticipation. I'm kind of curious for you, what will be your definition of a successful season for Steve in year 3? I got to ask you at least a tough one, Chris. I got to ask you, does that mean getting to the Big 12 championship game? Like, what does that, because you talk about competing for championships. I'm curious for you, like what when the day is done, what's the expectation?
I don't think the expectation ever changes for any of us. Our goal is our head coach's retreat. And I'll be glad to share it with every one of you. I said at the end of the day, our goal is to be a top 5 program every sport we represent. Our goal is to win a conference championship and compete for a national championship. If we do these things across the board, we'll be viewed as the very best athletic program in the country. And you can see by back-to-back Directors' Cup champions. And yet, if we had not get hit by some geese, we would have won it for the 3rd time, or a drop, a ball in Stanford. By the way, I sent that AD a box full of lights to say, hey, brother, fix the lights. Here you go. Turn some flashlights. He's great. He's a great friend. But you look at, so with Steve, I think one of the things you looked at, and I think, and Anwar, you and I had a lot of discussions. It was interesting for us coming through COVID and civil unrest. Mm-hmm. That football program really would bear the brunt of that. Yeah. Steve's first year, we had 54 guys on scholarship. We were running a tight end at linebacker. We were running safeties, wide receivers at safeties. We were mixing people. The depth of our team was just different. Our offensive and defensive line makeup was different. So I love the fact that and then last year's team, they're getting so much put together. Our average age of our team was 19.2. TCU was almost 23 years old. Georgia was 24. I thought they all went on a Mormon mission and came around. In fact, the quarterback is 25. I mean, and these are not excuses. What I'm saying is we went from here to here. So I look at building blocks. I walk out there, Anwar, and I go, gosh, dang it, this team looks so different. We look like the first year I was at Rice and we played Texas in 2006. And like, whoo, that's a team. We look offensive line. We just got dudes. You got dudes on the defensive line. You got receivers. We look completely different than we did in year 3, and 3 years ago. So my expectations of Steve, like across the board for every one of our sports, we know we have to embrace the hate this year. Everyone in the Big 12 is mad at us. They think we broke up the Big 12. They think we broke up the Pac-12 because we left. We left for what's right for the University of Texas. And that was my job. That's our job as leadership, is to protect the brand and put ourselves in the best position to be successful. So we know we have the t-shirts we gave all of our staff and kids, embrace the hate. That's our mantra this year. At the same time, it's the farewell tour. And our goal is we won 12 Big 12 championships last year. The year before we won 13. Our goal is to win all 20. That is our goal, and for us to compete for championships. So I will tell you that's my goal for Steve, and that's our expectations.
Okay, John, you put in the question. Our last one in 30 seconds. I know Steve. I know Chris well enough that he's not going to answer this question because he's going to tell you that he's focused in on the Big 12 and he's not going to talk about a prediction for SECs in year 1. All right, I know you well enough to know that this is the answer to the question.
Yeah, and Big John, I'm excited about that move, but it's a year away, and you have to live where your feet are. And this is one of the things we do this year. Every year with our head coaches retreat. We got to focus the now. You know, this move to the Southeastern Conference is great. That's the decision we made as a leadership team. We forced it a year earlier, but we have 600 students that are going to feel the brunt of this move this year. They're going to go to and from hostile environments. We know we got to protect them. We got to love them, and we got to talk about go do you this year. So we can talk about being Nostradamus a year from now, but right now let's just get to work.
All right, Chris Del Conte, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to see you next week. I'm sure I'll see you on Beaver Boulevard, all the road games this season. Congratulations, of course, on what's probably going to be your new contract in the long term here being at Texas.
Well, I love the super chat.
I tell you, super chat, Jumbotron, filter it out. Chris, I just gave you $1 million. You're going to raise so much money, Chris. You can thank me later.
I would not do a super chat to charge anybody. I'd be like, let's go. This is why I love it.
All right, Chris Del Conte,
gentlemen,
thank you. And he said hook him to you. Thank you, guys, and thank you for Chris for joining us. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. Let's regroup. Thank you to Chris Del Conte, John Bianco for setting up the interview, and everyone who worked behind the scenes on that. Lots to digest, lots to absorb, especially that last part that he said, not shying away, embrace the hate. When you guys getting your Embrace the Hate t-shirts? Because that, to me, is the absolute winner right there. Okay, let's do a quick break, and we will be right back.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the best wide receivers to ever play on the 40 acres, former Odessa Permian star Roy Williams. One of the all-time greats out of West Texas, Williams was one of the last great players to come out of Permian and the Little Southwest Conference, a school and district in West Texas that helped inspire the movie and TV show Friday Night Lights. Williams' prowess as a receiver, defensive back, and track star made him perhaps the single best talent to ever come out of that part of the state. Overall, Williams finished the year as a 5-star prospect in the Rivals 2000 rankings, but actually ranked behind fellow Texas wide receiver signee B.J. Johnson in the rankings, which seemed pretty stupid almost as soon as he hit campus. I can't lie, I had Williams ranked behind Johnson as well, who at one time reminded scouts of former Florida State wide receiver Peter Warrick. In addition to Williams and Johnson, fellow Texas signee Sloan Thomas was ranked as a top 5 in-state prospect, and the three of them became known as the Big Three when they arrived on the 40 acres. As far as Williams' actual recruitment, he was an early commitment for the Longhorns, who had the arrival of five-star quarterback Chris Sims as a major selling point for all of the in-state wide receiver gems that year. For the most part, Williams was solid as a rock throughout the recruiting process to the Longhorns, although Texas A&M fans were convinced that he would be a late flip in the recruiting process to them, even if there was virtually zero evidence to suggest it would happen. But we're talking about facts and evidence. And when has that ever mattered to the Aggies? At the end of the day, Williams signed with the Longhorns and became one of the best players in the history of the school at his position.
And welcome back. Man, that was fun times. Chris O'Connor is going to do super chats for media questions. You know, sometimes the questions are so bad, like some media people should have to pay to ask them. I'm not going to lie. Because that would be kind of interesting. I imagine a world where for $20 or $50, like, and they put it up on the Jumbotron, like kind of you take pictures, if you tag UT, they might put it up on the Jumbotron. But imagine a world where in-game is also like positive stuff, right? That's kind of the thing. Like if you put something negative, they just take your money. In the in-game, like they just put some positives, like you just spend $20 to have like your stuff, $50, $100. It just goes on the Jumbotron, $500. And imagine the more people drink, the more they're like, I want to get something on the Jumbotron. Watch this. I'm telling you, you can raise thousands upon thousands. Again, I don't understand. He said they go and look at different ideas. I guess he viewed mine as a bad one. So, well, I guess maybe that's his nice way of telling me he thought my idea was kind of trash. But that's okay. Nonetheless, hey, Mike Hardge is going to be joining me around like 9:15, actually. Surprise guest that is going to be on here, but you guys remember Hardge not live. He's going to be on here about 9:15, and then around 10:20, I'm going to have Ari Tempkin on. So again, I'm going to keep the hits going. I'm going to keep the party going. Things to that effect. I thought I just want to kind of react to a couple of different things that he talked about in the interview. I don't want to gloss over everything. First of all, you guys, great jobs on the questions that you guys asked. I thought they were really good. I thought they were fair questions. And I thought the answers were very interesting. Tom G, you had a really good question about the parking situation. I don't necessarily have to leave because I usually have to do my interviews. I got to do a post-game show. So I don't have to leave that portion of it. But now the understanding of, for you guys trying to get out and what that looks like, it's tough. I know what it's. I see it. It's tough for you guys on game day because by the time I come back up to the press box, I can look back out and I'm seeing you guys like, man, that you guys are still sitting there. But the explanation of it, makes sense as far as the funding. There's not a lot of police. Look, I go to police. I think you guys may have known, like a few years ago, I had my car broken into over by the 360 bridge, and I called and had my gun stolen out the car as well. I can file a police report. I called for 3 days. So I get it. Like for the parking perspective, I get where that's at. Some of the things that you guys talked about with the NIL stuff. I mean, it's tough, right? When you guys as donors, you're saying, okay, I'm donating to Longhorn Foundation, but should I be donating to like the NIL? Like, what should I do and where should my money go? And having to make that decision. I thought his answer was really good. You get where your heart's at. It makes all the sense in the world. Like if you feel like I want this to go to the players in order to get, the players out in the field, one thing. You want it to go to the university, that's another thing. It's a tough decision though. It's a tough decision for you guys. And that, it's not just you. I mean, this is something like every college across the world is dealing with right now. Like there's only so much money you have, right? And if you're used to donating 500, 1,000, 10,000, big money donors, this and that. Now it's like, am I donating to this plus NIL? And then everything else that comes up and about. So how you do that and how you navigate that, was very, interesting for you guys and how you make that thing kind of go and where your loyalties kind of lie and how you figure that out. So I thought that portion of what he said, and again, anything else that you guys thought was interesting, put that in the chat as well. We can have the conversations about that. Also, do me a favor. because we went a little bit over, but of course it's for Chris Del Conte, we'll definitely go over. And I appreciate him giving us a little bit of extra time. Put your buy or sell questions in the chat as well, because I definitely want to get to those after we start talking to Mike Hardge. And towards the end, when, I had to ask him the real questions, the real question about the football team and Chris and Steve Sarkisian, like at the end of the day, like all the questions that we had were fun. I thought they were really, entertaining, engaging, very informative, was able to learn a lot of different things throughout the interview with Chris Del Conte, who you guys can see why he's such a good fundraiser. Like, he's that guy you want to go and talk to and have a beer with and all that other kind of stuff. Like, you see what he does and you see how engaging that he is. But, that at the end of the day, did have to ask him about your expectations. This is year 3. And at the end of the day, like, hey, when it's all said and done, like, this is the year of expectations for Steve Sarkisian and his program. This is where your expectations are high. This is where the media's expectations are high. This is where people around the conference, their expectations are high. I just had someone on yesterday from K-State that said, I expect Texas to be that team that's in the Big 12 championship game. You can go from a national perspective of people saying that, as well. So that's out there. And so wanted to see. And so, first of all, embrace the hate. That's a really good motto. That's something that you guys have to put on T-shirts, put on hats, put on everything, put on the embrace the hate for sure. But yes, competing for a championship. Like he said all of them, but yes, he did at the end say, and Steve Sarkisian as well, right? At the end of the day, that becomes his expectation as well. So now we know. And the thing that we do as reporters that kind of becomes important, right, is we put people on the record. Because when you're on the record for something, these are the things we can go back to and say, okay, this is what your expectation was, and this is what your expectations are, and what your expectation is, right? It's the reason why most coaches shy away from it when they start talking about it, right? And this is the reason why I've always talked about what I respect about Steve Sarkisian, as he embraces these expectations and the expectations for this upcoming season. But nonetheless, now we know for sure, all right, he's expecting this team to compete for championship. He went through the whole making of the team, right? It was kind of like the old school making of the band, right? But he went through the making of the team and what that kind of looked like from where it once was. He didn't know the guy's name, but he wanted to say Brendan Schooler when he talked about receivers playing safety and stuff like that. It's funny because that's who I talked about before. Like, I don't know if he was listening beforehand, but yes, these were some of the things. He might have been listening to the show beforehand, but these were some of the things that he had before. It's like, this is what it looked like now. This is what Steve Sarkisian has recruited and built up. And now this is what the team looks like now. Now the expectation, even from Chris Del Conte, is to this team takes the next step. This team goes to another level. So that's good to know for you guys as well, that we were able to get that on the record and being able to get that out there as well too. All right, let's do this, guys. Let's go ahead and go, Blake and Aaron. Let's go ahead and go to another quick little pause. And then when we come back, I'll bring in Mike Hardge. Surprise guest for you guys today, but I'll bring in Mike Hardge, and he and I are going to talk about just everything. So you guys get ready. Quick pause for the calls, and I'll be right back.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback takes a look back at the single lowest rated recruit of the 2020 recruiting class and one of the 5 lowest rated position players that the Longhorns have signed in the last 5 recruiting cycles. That's right, I'm talking about senior All-American linebacker Jalen Ford, a lowly 3-star prospect who ranked as the number 127th ranked player in the state of Texas per Rivals. Yeesh. Ford's recruitment began in earnest in the spring of 2019 when he picked up 16 offers by the end of May, including Power 5 offers from the likes of Kansas, Minnesota, Utah, and Texas Tech. Still, the recruiting services paid him no attention. After taking unofficial visits to Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and Hawaii, Ford took his first official visit to Texas Tech in late May. Quote, "This is my only official visit for the summer," Ford said at the time. "I'm looking to visit Washington State and Utah early in the season, so maybe I'll be ready around September, then make a decision and announce my commitment shortly after that." True to his word, the trip to Utah proved to be a game changer for Ford as he committed to the Utes on October 8th of his senior season, right after taking his official visit to see the Utes. Very quietly, though, the Longhorns became involved in his recruitment a month later. After Texas assistant coach Tim Beck visited Ford at his high school, Tom Herman called him a week later to offer a scholarship. Ford did a good job of keeping the news of Texas's interest under wraps. In fact, in early December, Ford told Orangebloods that he hadn't even been talking to the Texas staff. At the time, Lone Star was alive in the Texas State playoffs, and Ford said he wanted to remain focused on his team's playoff run. Once Lone Star season came to an end on December 14th, Ford began to focus on his upcoming decision, and he finalized the decision to commit to Texas a week later. "It was really right before I was going to sign," Ford said. "At that point, football is over. I finally had some time to sit down and think. The day I didn't sign, the first day of signing day, I had to call Utah and Texas. It was a little bit chaotic." On December 23rd of 2019, Ford committed to the Longhorns, and the rest is Texas football history.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, man. Surprise, surprise. You never know what's going to happen on the show. Let's go back into the Speakeasy Lounge and bring in my mate. Hardball Hardge, what is going on? How are you doing, my man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm always glad to chop it up with you. I'm glad I got a chance to get into the Speakeasy Lounge. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of tough to follow CDC though, but I try to dress to
Yeah.
impress every once in a while for you, Doc.
Yeah, no, I absolutely appreciate it. Did you catch any part of the Chris Del Conte interview? And if you did, what were some of the things that kind of stood out to you?
I love the fact of obviously Chris Del Conte. He's kind of, a man of the people. I love his interaction with everyone. Obviously, can't talk to everybody, but he does give a
Yeah.
little bit of the time and kind of answers some of the questions that are being asked. Congratulations to him for getting an extension to, what'd you say, 2030?
2030.
Yeah.
2030. I left out because I didn't want to put him on the spot how much
Oh,
money
yeah.
he was getting.
Oh, yeah.
But hold on, I got it right here. I want to say it's a good 19.2.
Woo, woo.
Yeah. Love that
Hey, you
money.
can get a lot of cheese on your Whoppers for sure. If you know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, I'm happy for him. But one of the things that I've always been impressed with him is that if you suggest something and he sees the reasoning behind it, he's not afraid to make those types of changes. You remember those times, Anwar, you were covering the University of Texas during the Steve Patterson time.
Oh,
Yeah,
boy.
yeah.
Oh,
And then you
boy.
go from one extreme to the other, and you create this family-like atmosphere where everyone can make sure that they're having a lot of fun and enjoying it, bringing everybody on to the 40 acres. I know a lot of people were upset about not being able to tailgate in the parking lot, but you start looking at what he's created on Bevo Boulevard. It's an amazing, amazing venue, and he makes it where you want to be in the action. So I'm happy that the University of Texas extended him. He's been great ambassador for the university, but he still has to step this game up moving into the SEC next year. So it's gonna be on and popping.
Yeah. Now, you when you said like Steve Patterson, that was like, what is that thing where you used to have to say something in the mirror like 3 times?
Candyman.
Yeah,
Candyman.
like you say it like 2 more times, like it's something's gonna appear, you're gonna get charged for
Yeah.
like for having cheese on your Whopper or something like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it does interesting. They go from that to Mike Perrin, who was kind of the interim AD, did a good job, but that he was stepping up, for the university that he loves. And then of course Chris kind of comes in and brings in a couple of additions. He said towards the end though, before he got to the SEC, it's like the SEC will take care of itself. They'll worry about it then. But he did make sure to make it known that he's got the expectations of this team competing for a championship this season. When you've looked at it and you've kind of analyzed it, I kind of want to get your thoughts. Like, what's your expectations, for the team in this upcoming season?
I mean, I know your Eric Sells Holmes. He's over there talking about 12-0. He's really on that thing, right?
He's always on
that. So for me, I've looked at this, and there's so many different deals that we would have to go through to break down. But on the surface, if everything's the same, no injuries, we just have everything that we need, I strongly believe that this is a 10-2 football team. Now, the losses can sneak up on you. There's some games that you're not supposed to win that you win, and there's some games that you lose that you're not supposed to lose. So there's always that factor in there. But the maturity level for me of this team, the hype is real, and we can't run away from it. As much as Coach Sark wants to try to downplay it, but he knows he has a talented team, and so do we. I mean, you've been covering this team. This is the first time in a long time where you can walk into a season and actually say, oh, they're better than that team. They're better than this team. They have more talent. They've always had the talent. But now I think the coaching and the development has evolved to a whole nother level. And, case in point, you just did the flashback on Jalen Ford. Look at his development throughout the time here at the University of Texas and the player that he's become. He was talented, but we always talked about the development. I think they're in a good space right now with their development. So 10-2 is the number that I've been sticking to. And I know a lot of people, and I heard Jeff Ketchum talk about this too. When's the last time Sark won 10 games? Never.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
So I'm going to put you in that, hey, I want to believe. I was one of those guys that would go to Vegas every year and put money on the over for the University of Texas. I'm broke.
So you lost a lot. What you're trying to tell everybody is that you're a really bad gambler. Is what you're trying to tell everybody.
I'm really bad when it comes to my horn. I'm really bad when it comes to the horn. So I've decided now to, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but I'm not drinking it through a water hose. I'm in the speakeasy lounge, so I'm shaking the ice and trying to get all of that.
Yeah. Well, you can make some of your drinks smoke too if you go to the right place.
There it is.
But then the thing is hard, when we start talking about like 10-2. Let's go, because that means what one game could make this thing 11-1. Another game can make this thing 9-3. There's different ways to go, right? So give me a scenario in your head that this thing happens to be an 11-1. Like what happened? What went well for this thing to get you at least one more game? Like that's winning a last second field goal kind of game. Mm-hmm. The other one, 9-3, is probably losing maybe on the last second field goal as well. Give me like what pros and cons, good and bad.
Okay, so here's the first one. Obviously, the big one is Alabama. You go in there and you look at this Alabama game. It's still Alabama. Everybody can talk about them being down. They still got Nick Saban, and he'll figure out a way to make things work. We've seen it happen. So why would we not? It's kind of like what we talked about, the over-unders. We know that Alabama's going to be in the mix for something just because of who they are, and they recruit well and the development part of it. So that Alabama game stands out to me, as it does for a lot of people. But you also got to look at either Baylor or K-State, because I always equate it to what is on the sideline, the calming factor, the head coach. You look at what Dave Aranda has been able to do at Baylor. Yeah, he's still trying to figure out his quarterback situation. Blake Shapen kind of let him down a little bit, but they bringing in Sawyer Robertson, whose dad actually was a teammate of mine with the Montreal Expos. His son is now the backup quarterback at Baylor. So I look at Dave Aranda and what he's able to do and his way of going about coaching. Then I also look at Chris Kleiman, who everybody seems to forget that K-State won the Big 12 last year. Like everybody seems to always forget that. And Chris Kleiman is a guy, I know he lost a lot of talent, but he's a damn good coach, and he understands what it's like. And that purple kryptonite will always get you sometimes, you know what I'm saying? It's like that hypnotic, you know what I'm talking about? So you sit there and you look at those three games. Those are the three games that really, really worry me. I know Kansas is on the come up. They're doing a great job of with their quarterback, who would have been in the Heisman Trophy conversation hadn't he not got hurt last year. So there's a lot of teams that are out there. But again, I go back to the fact this is probably the most talented team that I've seen for the University of Texas for a very, very long time. And it seems like everything is lining up for them as they try to venture out their last year in the Big 12 and then trying to go in the SEC.
Yeah, Mike Hardge. And then, the thing is, Mike, for this to happen, right? I think it brings us back to Quinn, right? I mean, it's all about that. And we can talk. We'll get into the other things that are out there as far as the talent is concerned. But like for me, Mike, the thing that will make this thing go has to be Quinn taking that next step, the next step in the evolution that I believe he can take, the next step in the evolution that I think statistics show that he should be able to make. If you believe in Steve Sarkisian, then you should be able to believe in Quinn Ewers and what he's able to do. We've heard all season about the new Quinn Ewers and the new evolution, whether it's the diets, whether it's the weight training, whether it's the refocus on the football, working with his QB coach, like all that kind of thing, cutting the mullet, right? We don't know nothing about that, Hardge. Like we don't.
You're right.
You and I invest a lot in razors, is what we do. Anybody wants to invest in a razor? A razor sponsor would be like the best sponsor, to be quite honest with you. But nonetheless, give your thoughts on Quinn though. Like he's the secret sauce to the whole thing, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm definitely all in on Quinn, and this is why. Playing the quarterback position, I actually played quarterback all through my youth, all the way through high school, had some offers to go play at the next level. But the biggest thing for me is his footwork last year was so atrocious because he has been getting away with that arm talent that everybody talks about. He's been blessed with the golden arm, but a lot of times he wasn't able to get away with it because you're playing against like competition now, man. It's not, you're not playing against a high school squad where you could just go out there and flip it around and your guys are better. No, everybody got a squad out there that can play just like you. So I think he failed himself last year by not really honing in on the fundamental part of playing quarterback. I think that was a big downer. So we hear all the conversations. He went back and got back into the lab, as they like to say, and put some things in motion, because that's really the only time that you're going to be able to do that is during the off season. So for him to be able to do that, come out with the right attitude, you're hearing him he's chirping a little bit more. He's getting on people. And we actually saw that in the bowl game against Washington. He was more vocal during that time. So we saw the evolution of a Quinn Ewers. And let's not get it twisted. This is a money year for him. This is a contract year. You know how it goes. Just like any sport that you see, they always say during the contract year, them dudes put up their best numbers.
Yes.
They put up their best numbers because they know. I got something to do.
He knows, because the goal was always to leave after this season. And it's almost like he felt like and realized, like, wait a second, after last year, I didn't move closer to that goal of being able to move out and be an NFL draft pick. And now, look, Hardge, we can talk about him being a first round pick. Hardge, remember, and I bring this up a lot. You know, the last time there's a good example of not living up to expectations. Spencer Rattler, right? Spencer Rattler was a guy who entered in that season. Everyone said he might be the #1 overall pick. Spencer Rattler's still playing football right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's still playing football right now. He's at the
in college.
Like, I don't know who's older, him or Casey Thompson at this moment, right? Like, don't they like super seniors? Like, what's going on? Like, they ain't nobody leaving college. Like, you know what? This is my home, right? I just want to be here in college, right? But I'm not speaking on that. I'm not predicting that. But I'm just using that as the cautionary tale, right? That if you don't do what you need to do, nothing's promised to you and nothing's guaranteed.
Correct. And that's why you got to go back and see where my talent got me, but how do I enhance it? Right? Like, how do I enhance it? I know I got the ability. It's there. But what do I do to get there? And that's what he did this offseason. And I'm sure if you were to, peel back the onion and really talk to Quinn Ewers, he'll tell you that he failed himself last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he knows it. There was moments where we thought he was going to ascend. We were both sitting in the press box at the game against Alabama, and we were like, "Oh, what?
Yeah,
This is what we're about to get. This is what's about to happen."
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, everything crashed down, and he had to adjust himself and go through some of that to get back onto the field. You saw the game against Oklahoma. You saw the bright spots, but you also saw the game against Oklahoma State, where it didn't go as well. So those are the adjustment periods and the learning moments that I hope that he can take into this season.
Do you think, as a former quarterback, the footwork had anything to do with him not having that connection with Xavier of last season? Is that a footwork thing, or what? Give me the idea, because there was only one pass that was really a deep ball. That was a 49-yard reception by Casey Kane in the Alamo Bowl. That was it. That was it. That was it, Hardge. So, like, when you saw it, like, what was really the thing that really hurt them in the deep pass?
I think it was a lot. I think a lot of it had to do with the fundamental part of it, the footwork, making sure you get into your drop and letting the ball go and letting guys run underneath the ball. That's one of the things too. You got Chance Mock on this station now, and I'm sure he's gonna talk about that as well. But you have to have that projected arc where your guy can run to it, not throw it to him. Just throw it and let him run underneath it. And I think that was one of it. And then the other part of it too, for me, was he was missing so much time. You were missing time because you got hurt. You got here late. You didn't work the right angles. There are so many other things that can go in there. But I think this year is going to be important for him in their offseason of what they did this offseason, what they did during the offseason, but what they've been able to accomplish in practice. Because as well as I do, Sark gonna throw that ball deep.
Oh, he gonna throw it.
He gonna throw that ball deep.
If there's that button on your PlayStation game for the deep pass, like, he's going to hit that button on a deep pass
every time.
Yes,
every time.
But there's an advantage to that, right, Hardge? Because he doesn't want 16 play drives, right? No. He doesn't want 17 play drives. He doesn't want to do this ground and poundish kind of thing, maybe in the second half kind of thing. But he's not necessarily a guy that's looking. I think he wants to get like 7-8 plays, gash you and deep play. Like, give me, for those who don't understand, Hardge, give the understanding of that strike, that quick strike, like the advantage of that. Because here's the other thing that people have asked me is like, well, is that going to hurt the defense at all if they are starting suddenly connecting on these deep plays?
Yeah, I agree with that. There is a rhyme and reason that you want to look at of the deep ball. You want to be able to strike. You want them to be on their heels the entire time. You want them to back it up a little bit more if you can go out there and hit that big play, because then they're more worried about getting beat deep. You talk to Rob Babers. He said that was his only fear ever, was the deep ball. He's like, I just didn't want to get beat deep. I can jump every other route. I watch the film. I don't want to get beat deep. No DB wants to get beat deep. So if you can get that to them early, that kind of takes that aggression away from them too. Yeah. So they're not going to come up and try to jam you because you get over the top. Those are the types of things that I always try to look at too. Is like, if I got a guy that I know can beat that other guy over the top, I'm going right at him right away and continue to do so. But then once they start backing up, then you got your slants, you got your stop routes, you got your quick hitters, quick game, getting the ball out of your hand to be able to let people make plays. So to me, it's always something that you look at to say, all right, let's hit them quick. But on the contrary, the defense needs rest too. It depends on how long that defense has been on the field. If the defense is getting them out on 3 and out, then you can go and take that opportunity. But if they're going over there and they got a 16-play drive that you were talking about just a little while ago, if they go out there with a 16-play drive, you don't want to score fast. You want your team to be able to rest a little bit. So you're still playing that cat and mouse game as well.
Yeah, no, I mean it makes all the sense in the world. Mike Hardge, back in action. He's been in the lab doing a couple little things, but it's time to bring him
Yeah.
back out and,
Yeah.
and show a couple little things. So at the end of the day, as we still keep continuing the conversation about Quinn, and when it's all said and done, are you buying it? Right? Do you buy it, Hardge? Because we heard it, but what is that the Mike Tyson thing? Like everyone's got that perfect strategy until you get hit in the mouth,
You
right?
get popped
So
in the mouth.
are you buying it all? Are you saying, all right, I've heard enough? Or are you taking like a wait and see approach? I feel like if you say 10-2, you are buying it, but I'm just kind of curious and want to hear that your mouth. I don't want to speak for you.
I'm definitely buying it. I'm definitely buying it. When we sit and talk to Sark and we can see the change, right? We talk about the evolution of Quinn Ewers, right? The
Yeah.
growth. You can see it in Sark too. Those moments that you have with him, you can see the confidence in what he sees. He's envisioned this team looking like him.
Mhm.
This is what he wanted to see happen. And so for me, watching these guys work out, watching these guys go through the practices and hearing all the reports from you guys over at Orangebloods, great write-ups, by the way. Continue to support the Orange Blood family because
Thank you, thank you,
that's
thank
what
you.
they do.
Let's keep it in the
But
family.
but you sit there and you look at it and you say, man, this is what we envisioned when Sark first got here. Now he
Mhm.
had to build it. He had to build it. But in year 3, this is where I'm looking for him to make that transformation and say, all right, we're going to do this for a while. But the problem is,
Yeah.
my man ain't won 10 games before. So it kind
Yeah,
of, so
yeah.
and over the last, what is it, 13 years, they have only went over one time the expectation, and that was 2018 when they went to the Sugar Bowl.
Mhm.
Every other year, they fell short of the goal.
And
That
even
which
and
is why
even the Sugar Bowl year, Mike. I mean, it ends up being a great season, but it was a 9-win season. There was still
Mhm.
4 losses in there, so it ends up looking great. But at the end of the day, Mike, it wasn't like something that you just looked at and said, "That damn it, man, flag, plant the flag" or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. That is very, very true because you still look at those losses and you're like, where did they fail at? What was their shortcomings in that situation? So I agree with you 100% on that because it wasn't beautiful, but it was beautiful. You know what I'm saying? We was in New Orleans for a week, dog. We was there
Now
for
we
a
were in
week.
New Orleans for the parts that we remember. Yes, it was definitely beautiful.
Exactly.
It's been a while because I can tell you this. Since I've covered this team, Harge, I've gone out of the state for a bowl game one time. One time. That's it.
Oh my
That's it.
goodness.
One time. And by the way, there's 3 times, Harge, where I didn't do nothing in December. I was just, I was just, I was like, hey kids, what do y'all want to do? You want to go down and see the lights at Mozart's? Like I got some time. I mean, oh, look at this thing. Look at it playing the Christmas lights at Mozart's, man. This is beautiful. Hey,
This
you
is
guys
so
want to,
beautiful.
it is. I'm like, oh, Christmas. I'm going to the Western Park that's downtown as well. Like
Zilker.
Zilker is gonna look at some Christmas lights in Zilker, guys. This is
Mhm.
this is awesome. So
We can go to Trail of Lights, baby. We can go to Trail of Lights.
I don't want to. I enjoy family time, Harsh,
Right.
but I'd much rather towards the end of the year be doing something a little bit more. So you got it down for 10-2. I asked you a couple more, and then I'll
What
let
you
you.
got? What you got him at?
I'm at 10-2, Harsh, and here's why. I believe in the talent acquisition
Mhm.
that they've had. Like I think this team is way too. At some point, Harge, you've got so much talent that is almost hard to fail. Like
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like at some point you've just got enough. Like when they say it's not about the X's and O's, it's about the Jimmys and Joes, right? That's it, right? This is a Jimmys and Joes kind of team. When you look at the quarterback room and how it's stacked there, you don't panic right now and think to yourself if Quinn has to miss because he's got the flu. this whole thing the operation just blows up, right? You don't worry about if someone gets a flu on the offensive line. I use flu. I don't like to use injuries, right?
I got
Because
you.
I feel like, because you like, well, someone gets hurt, you're like, man, don't speak that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Like, don't speak that evil on me, Ricky. But I don't. So now I've transitioned to someone gets the flu. Like that's my positive TD Jakes, Joel Osteenish kind of just positivity, some zen here, right?
I got you.
Offensive line, I feel like if someone misses it, you feel pretty good about that. You feel good about the receivers and how stacked they are on that side of the room. Obviously, feel good about the tight end room. I feel good about the defensive line and all those guys up there. I feel good that I know I'm hearing more about now for Collins in practice, Vernon Broughton. These names are being brought about with the Byron Murphys of the world and Tavondre Sweats. Feeling good about Ethan Burke, of course, Barrett Sorrell on the outside and what he's going to be able to do. And he looks like a beast. Oof. I mean, that dude, yeah. You didn't get hit by guys like that when you played football.
No, they changed a lot.
they had this thing called weight training and stuff like that.
A lot of it.
Yeah. And so I feel good about the linebacker position because I feel good about Jalen Ford, of course. But whoever they put in the Anthony Hills of the world, like I feel good about that. The DB rooms are stacked. So I look at it, man, and I'm saying to myself, that's 10. Now, I'm giving myself the potential of the Bama loss, right? I feel like I got to give him that, even though I think they got a good chance to win. And then the other part for me, it's hard to go undefeated in the conference. It just is. Mm-hmm. And there's still going to be road. They still got to go TCU on the road. Like, and that's always tricky for whatever reason. And even if Gary Patterson isn't there, I mean, they lost at home to TCU last year, right? So a TCU on the road, like 2 point K-State. I had someone on the show the other day talking about K-State, and you're right. It is. I go back to the Roy Jones Jr. Y'all must have forgot.
Yep.
Right. I feel like y'all must have forgot about K-State. So you feel like there's going to be a loss in there somewhere. But I can ride with 10-2, even though Sark hasn't done it. I can still see 10-2. Now I don't want to see too much less than that.
Right.
Like 9-3, you better get to the Big 12 championship game.
No matter what it is, you got to get to the Big 12 championship.
Oh yeah.
So that right there, that's part of the story that we hadn't even touched on yet. But you are 1,000% correct, my brother. You have to get to the Big 12 championship game. Matter of fact, I'm booking my hotel right now.
Right now?
So you have to make sure you get there because I think they're going to be 24 hours to release it. So I'll be out.
Well, Hardge, just so you know, I already booked my hotel.
There you go.
I can let you know where I'm staying.
There
all right.
It is.
I can let you know. I already booked it in advance. I mean, Marriott allows you to cancel, so I would know in early December, if I got to cancel or not. So
may know by November.
yeah. Oh my God, I don't want to do that. I don't want to. Hey, on that
on the positive,
because we're gonna go like that. Back in the day when the TV would go off and they would just put that screen on.
Yep.
If it was a negative, that's going to be the old-fashioned show. This is going to be just a screen because I ain't gonna. Let's play the national anthem.
That's it all night.
Call it a day. All right, Hardge, I'm gonna let you go. Give me a parting shot. Give me a final thought of yours before I let you get out of here.
All right, man. So I sit here and I've been thinking about this because I've had some time off. I had a lot of time to think here lately. So I've been thinking about this University of Texas football team. Everybody continues to talk about the next year's move. One of the biggest things that stood out to me was Coach Sark at the Big 12 Media Days and leading up to Big 12 Media Days, the story of everybody more worried about this year. We as fans and people in the media, we can talk about all of that, but everything that's happening in Moncrief has now been focused on this 2023 football season, which was big for me because they could easily drift somewhere else. There's a lot of times that all of this can happen. But for the leadership in that locker room, what Jordan Whittington has brought to the table with his leadership as well, talking about getting to the Big 12 championship, I think this is set up to be one of those years that we talk about for quite some time. I'm excited for football season. I'm always excited for football season. But for this part of it, it's been a while that this city was electric. with a football team, right? That where everybody was talking about University of Texas, good or bad, good or bad. This is one of those seasons that I'm here for, and I can't wait to see how this whole thing ends.
Now, let me ask you this. Hardge, before you go. So 10-2, right? And in Arlington, if they go past that for some odd reason,
Mm-hmm.
let's say 11-1 happened, right? So 11-1 happened. You traveling for the bowl games?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to know. I just want to know how far are we going into the support there? That's what I just want to know.
Let's put it like this.
Yeah.
The Alabamas of the world, they try to figure out which game they're going to go to. For the Texas Longhorn fans, we going to them all if we make the playoffs. We can work. Damn the savings. Damn the savings. Get out there and go get it.
Mike Hardge, my man, I absolutely appreciate you jumping on today. Hardball Hardge, you guys will see him a little bit. You'll see him more. We'll see him more. You know that's going to happen. Hardge, I appreciate you. Much love, man. You enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, man. I appreciate you.
All right, Mike Hardge coming in there. Got guest upon guest today, and the party's not going to stop because guess what? At 10:20. I got Ari Tempkin. The reunion with Ari Tempkin is going to happen as well as he comes back on the channel. Hey, those guys, Chad and Ketch, they end up having Dustin for a reunion. So I'm going to bring back someone from my reunion show. I'm going to bring back Ari Tempkin, a guy I used to do a bunch of shows with. All right, so listen, let's do this. Let's get those buy or sell questions in the chat now. Get those lined up. I know those guys are working hard behind the scenes. Thank you, Aaron, and thank you, Blake. I know there's a lot going on today. It's a very, very busy show, but I appreciate it. It is that tornado that we talked about before the show, right? It's just this whole things that are going on, but we'll make it work. Get buy or sell into the chat now. I will answer your questions as soon as we come back from this quick pause for the cause. Buy or sell's coming up next.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the biggest UT football stars of the last decade. Bijan Robinson was a 5-star prospect by Rivals when he signed with the Longhorns, finishing as the nation's number 18 overall prospect, the second best prospect in the state of Arizona, and the number 1 running back in the country, according to Rivals.com. Upon retrospect, it's kind of amazing that former running backs coach Stan Drayton was able to land Robinson when you consider that Ohio State was perceived as a massive leader for much of his recruitment. In fact, on the day he committed, Rivals.com recruiting analyst Adam Gorney told Orangebloods, quote, even after the Atlanta 5-star challenge, it almost felt like Ohio State was the foregone winner, Gorney said that day. But as it got closer, I think the realization that he would basically be going across the country to play football kind of set in. He really, really liked Texas and USC a lot, had connections to both schools, liked the staffs, and how they would use him, and wound up finding a school closer to home that he was very happy with. It wasn't until Robinson visited Texas on an unofficial visit for the spring game in April that Texas began to make it surge. By the time June rolled around, a couple of months later, the Longhorns had emerged as a team to beat in his recruitment. Robinson was a part of a 2020 recruiting class that finished 14th in the nation that year in the Rivals.com rankings, and what turned out to be the final full recruiting class for Tom Herman. A few years later, and there's not a ton of meat on the bone with respects to the elite prospects from that year outside of Robinson. Jake Majors and Jaron Thompson remain as a few of the higher ranked players in that class, but it's actually 2 of the lower ranked prospects in the class, Jahdae Barron and Jalen Ford, that have made the biggest impact as the class begins to wrap up its contribution to the Texas football program.
All right, welcome back. It has been a jam-packed, action-filled day here on the Old Fashioned Sports Show. Gotta calm myself down, take a break. Time for an early drink. That's for darn sure. But we're going to get ready for buy or sell. Let's get your questions in. For those who are new to the show, buy or sell is essentially almost like asking me a true or false kind of question. buy or sell. So go ahead and get those questions in. I will answer them to the best of my ability. I've got Ari Tempkin from Sirius XM Radio. We're going to talk about everything Big 12 related and have that reunion going. So if you haven't gotten your buy or sell in the chat, go ahead and get them in. It's your chance and opportunity to ask me questions. All right. All right, let's get this party started with buy or sell. Let's do it, guys. Let's do it. Let's do it. JD Hack, and I appreciate it. JD, I thought I saw earlier in the comments or something like that. You said something nice. I believe you said something like "I'm a star" or something to that effect. But I did see that, and I want to tell you I did appreciate that. Pretty sure that was you that said it. So thank you, JD, for watching and supporting. Like I said, I saw it. I got a bunch of things going on at one time. Buy or sell? Texas has the #1 offense and defense in the Big 12 this year. That's a good question. I can buy that. I can buy that, JD. I can absolutely buy that. I can see them excelling on both sides of the ball this year. I expect a lot of defensive improvement, for this team. They couldn't have been that far off as far as being #1 last year in defense, right? Let me look this up, JD. I can find this for you real quick. It's a very good question, but I can't imagine it's going to be a huge jump or a huge leap. I'm going to pull up my conferences, pulling up Big 12, and then I'm pulling up the total defense. Yeah, I mean, they were 2 last season. Yeah, so they were #2 last season. So making the jump to #1 is not going to be that impossible. Really, it's just about from the offensive standpoint of making that jump. And last season, they were ranked 5th, right? So if the offense just maintains, JD, where they're at, and the defense rather just maintains where they're at and just gets a little bit better, they'll be in that #1 spot. And now it's just about the offense going from 5 up to 1, which I think if they make this the necessary improvements that we're expecting this program to make, I don't think you're that far off from that, JD. I think that's a realistic expectation. I think that's a realistic question. So yeah, JD, I will absolutely buy that. People may think it's crazy, but we forget, and I forgot. #2 ranked defense in the Big 12 last season. So good question, JD, and I appreciate you and your kind words in the chat, and I appreciate your support as always. Eric Hart is back, and again, good morning to you, Eric. Thank you for checking out the show, and I appreciate your support as well. Buy or sell? Malik Muhammad. We got to decide if we're calling him Malik or Manny. That's who. By the way, I talked to someone yesterday, and was just and someone on campus that said they were just raving about Malik Muhammad and talking about how good he is. And this is like a random thing that I can tell you that I don't think would. Not something that would, I would put in print and people would necessarily care about. But I've heard from people who on campus that he's actually really involved in a lot of his classes. I've heard he sits in the front row. This is crazy information, right? You're like, this is so random, but it reflects on who the young man is. I hear he sits in the front row of all his classes, and I hear he's always engaged, and I hear he's always asking questions. So I hear he takes the student part of this thing extremely serious, which would make sense when we start talking about who he is as an athlete, as a player, and his ability to learn things and get there. Like those things, it's just they kind of add up. So yes, let's go with that. So anyway, is he a starter by the end of the year? Buy or sell? I'm going to sell that only just because I just think the competition in front of him, they're established, they're veterans. You don't want to he might be really, really good, but he still is really young. And I think they're really happy. I think you put him in situationally, but there's things that as a young person, he hasn't seen yet. And so you got to be really, really careful about buying into that kind of hype and putting that much pressure on him. Is he good? Absolutely. Is he bona fide? Absolutely. Is he a guy that if he continues on his trajectory is a future NFL player? Sure. But when we start talking about the money games. Like, you want to have somebody out there that's kind of been there and seen it. You want to have those guys out there. You want to have your Jades and your Ryan Watts, and you want to be able to have a lot of the experience that's out there. So I like him. I want him, but I want him for now to be situationally. So I don't see him moving into a starting role, but I do see him as a key contributor when it's all said and done. And good question, Eric. Thank you for your support as well. Cotton, good morning to you, Cotton. It's been a while since you put something in the chat. It's been a while since I've seen him buy or sell, but I hope you are doing well. Hope the family's doing well for you, Cotton. Buy or sell. CJ Baxter has more. Ooh, this is a good one. He has more TDs this year than Brooks. I'm going to sell on that. It's a good question, though. I like the question, Cotton. It's a very, very good one. I'm going to sell. And the main reason I'm going to sell is because I think Brooks gets utilized also in the passing game. And so because I think Brooks is going to get utilized in the passing game as well as the run game, I think those numbers and those TD numbers are going to add up for him. But nonetheless, it's a very good question. But I'm going to go with Brooks. Brooks is the guy for me, but it's a very good question. Now, let me ask you, let's go here. Let's see if I can get it. How about this? Because that was kind of an easy one for me. Let's do this. Let's do buy or sell. And I want you guys to do this one in the chat. Okay. So I got a buy or sell question for you guys. And I want you guys to answer this in the chat. Ladies as well. Buy or sell buy or sell CJ Baxter has more touchdowns than Jonte Cook. Now, that's my question to you guys in the chat. You guys are asking me one. I've got one for you. Buy or sell, CJ Baxter has more touchdowns than Jonte Cook this season. All right, you guys go ahead and answer that. I'll do some more buy or sell on my end, but I want to see what you guys say to that one because I'm very intrigued by this one. Text guy, text guy, we gotta have a drink one day. Appreciate you. Buy or sell. Alex is much more animated on his show than any other OB show. That's a 100% buy. That is what I will buy that 7 days a week and twice on Sundays. As the interesting thing about these shows, and the thing that's funny is that we both get to, like Alex or myself, you get to see a lot more of our personalities. Like it's different when it's four people. It's four people. And I see there's a lag on my internet, so this has got to get a little bit better. But come on, Spectrum. Golly, y'all trash. Okay, but nonetheless, Alex, it's like when we do these shows and there's four of us on the show, there's like the defer, like no one wants to really be like a hog in these shows, right? But then when you get to see Alex in his own whatever, like when you listen to Alex on like Sirius XM, it's almost like a different person. I don't even know who this guy is. Like he's happy, he's funny, like he's got his personality, like everything you see out. You're like, man, Alex is like depressed, like Alex. He comes on OB. He's got this black background. He's wearing black. He's like, yeah, man, like, so I was looking at the film, and, yeah, I got some stats that I can get to you guys, hold on, let me get it. Just wait a minute. And you're like, oh, man, like this dude's bringing me down. And then he gets on his show and he's got all this crazy energy that's going on. I'm like, who the hell is that guy? Well, I like that guy. And it's not to say I don't like him on the podcast, but I didn't even know Alex smiled. I know he smiles sometimes, but I like it. So Alex being on his own show, yes, brings out the best in him, and I enjoy it. And I'm almost going to be disappointed when we do modcast. I'm like, man, I want the 3:30 to 5:30 Alex. Like that's my favorite Alex. That's the guy I can hang with. The modcast Alex, I don't want to hang with that guy. I'll be honest with you. He's too depressing to me. But the friends. The friends Alex, friends with football Alex, like, oh, I'm down with that guy all day. All right, to give you another buy or sell. What else we got? JD. So deaf. How many times do you get that, JD? You know, um, by yourself. UT will end up with at least 6 all-conference performers by the season's end. All right. Well, let me go through it. So I'm gonna go Quinn Ewers, of course. I'm gonna go Xavier. The answer is probably yes, but I want to talk it out. So let me write it down. I'm gonna go Xavier. I think Jatavian. I'm gonna go Jatavian. AD is a little bit of a wild card for me. So let me just go for my for sure guys. I'm gonna go Kelvin Banks. Yeah, the number's gonna be yes because I've already got 4 at this moment. I'm gonna go Sorrell. That would give me my 5th. I'm gonna go Jalen Ford. That would give me my 6th. You know, I'm not somebody in the defensive backfield could be another potential one, but it's like a Ryan Watts. So I could go maybe 7. So yeah, I think that yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got at least 7 without even trying. So yeah, that's a good buy for me on that one, JD. I appreciate it. Thank you. Let's do another one. We got a couple more. John Butler. Good morning to you, John. And yeah, you were active as well earlier today, John. So thank you for being active in the chats and contributing. I've been seeing you guys the chats help. You know, you guys being active in the chats is also a part of the show. So don't feel like it's just this thing to the side. Like this is an active part of the show. And I know sometimes you guys talked about, doing call-ins and those things we can talk about at some point, but you being able to not necessarily wait for one call and then that's it, but being able to do this in the chat like that's very effective. So thank you guys, and thank you, John, specifically as well. By yourself, Texas would not get a favorable call in the Big 12 this year. Well, I'm gonna sell on that. But if you ask me, will Texas get hosed in a game? I would say yes. You ask me if you set the line. Here's be a good one. Let's set the line at 1.5 as far as Texas getting hosed by the referees. Are you taking the over or the under? Because I feel like they got hosed 2 times last year, so that might be the sweet spot. But are they going to be more conscious of it? The hard part about it, John, is that overall Big 12 refs are bad, in my opinion. I don't really think they're that good. So now, but you can't have a game where you're not calling a penalty against another team. It's just impossible. If they say there's a holding penalty on every single play, well, how is it not at least one? So yeah, I don't. They'll get some favorable calls, but will they get hosed in some games? Like absolutely, you got to expect that to happen. That might be the difference. Quite honest with you, when we start talking about 10-2s and 11-1s and this and that, and hell, El Presidente, this for you and your 12-0. Are you going to factor in and believe that Texas can overcome the referees? There is that. Good question, though. Let's do a couple more. Let's get a couple more that we got. Mike Torres, my Austin FC brother. Mike, they got their butts beat over the weekend, Mike. That was like 6-3. That was horrible. Horrible. You talk about a butt kicking, Mike. I'm going to go back out to another game. I'm going to bring my son, Mike. But man, Austin FC, that was bad. Even though they're still in contention, that was a bad game, Mike. Mike, though, if not, I mean, think it means to say this year. If not this year, Texas will never go 12-0 for a very long time. No, I'll buy that. I have to buy that, Mike. And the reason I have to buy that is it's hard to go undefeated in the SEC. Like Georgia's Georgia, but Georgia, we're going to look back on what Kirby Smart is doing, and there'll be like documentaries made for what he's been able to do. Like it's hard. It's hard as hell to go undefeated in the SEC going forward, especially if they go to a 9-game conference schedule after the year one. So if they go to a 9-game conference schedule in 2025, that's going to be even tougher. So yeah, to me, Mike, This is it. Like, this is, and I always keep saying this word easier. Like, it doesn't get any quote unquote easier for Texas than it does this year. Like, and I put easy in air quotes because this has to be the year, because it's not going to get easier when you've got, okay, Alabama 1 week, you've got Auburn the next week, you got Kentucky the next week, maybe you get a little reprieve with Vanderbilt, then you come back and you've got Ole Miss, and then you come back. I mean, go down the murderer's row like that. That's hard. It's very hard to do. So yes, this if this is it, because it's going to be extremely hard to do that. And quite honestly, my expectations for Texas when they go into the SEC kind of change. Might feel like my definition of success changes. Yours won't, but mine's will. All right. Do we have any more, Aaron? All right. Let's do a couple more that we have here, and then we'll do a quick pause. I got Ari Tempkin joining me from SiriusXM, former Orangebloods person. He's going to come in within the next 20 minutes and join the show wearing his backwards baseball cap, I am sure. Nick Garcia says, buy or sell. We have to make the Big 12 championship game to keep Colin Simmons from jumping ship. You know, ordinarily, I would say sell on that, but if you're saying 8-4, right? Because if they don't make the Big 12 championship game, that we're talking about an 8-4 season. If we're talking about 8-4 or worse, you know, in this era of athlete, where I feel like these young people, like I feel like these commitments, where I think Charlie Strong did say his best, these things are kind of taking reservations. Man, yeah, this is a tough ass question for me, Nick, because I'm going to buy the importance of it. He's a 5-star. 5-stars got options. You know, that's so if you're telling me he's signing up for a team that has 8 wins or less, and now all of a sudden there's some questions, because if you go 8 or less, you're talking now we got hot seat conversations, and that's not comfortable. And you're not going to have a lot of guys sign up, especially from a 5-star status, for hot seat conversations. They want to go to something that's kind of guaranteed. They want to go to something that they know checks all the boxes. And so, yeah, I think it's very important for there to be success on the field, like and especially in this world of NIL, where things can change in a matter of moments. So, yeah, I think I would say it's very important. I don't think it's the death blow, it's not the fatal blow. You know, they were still able to get an Arch Manning, you know, after a bad season, but that's as the team was building, as opposed to, hey, this should be kind of already completed. So that's the big difference for me. But good question. Let's do one more, and then we'll kind of get into a little bit of a break here. JD back again. So Def, but buy or sell. Texas offense connects on at least 3 50-yard passing touchdowns this season. Yes, I will absolutely buy that. I think Xavier will get loose. I definitely think AD Mitchell will get loose, and I think Jonte will get loose. I think we'll start to see that in week 1, to be quite honest with you. Like, I think we'll start to see the fruits of that occurring in week 1. So yeah, JD, absolutely. I definitely think, I don't think there's going to be an offense that's limited the way that it previously was. I don't think you have that to worry about. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's get into a small little break. I've got my social media standout, so I definitely want to get to that as soon as we get back from the other side of the break. And then at that point, then we will have Ari Tempkin in the house. Another guest, third guest of the day. Do not go anywhere, people. We'll be right back.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback takes a look at a player that was the first commitment of the TCU class of 2020 and became the last signee of the Texas 2020 recruiting class, with a little stopover in Waco in between. That's right, Texas senior defensive back Jahdae Barron had one hell of a recruitment before eventually developing into one of the most important remaining players from a somewhat disastrous 2020 recruiting class. For those that might not remember, Barron finished as a mid 3-star prospect in the Rivals.com rankings while finishing 79th in the state and 72nd in the country as a cornerback. Should note for the record that I had Barron ranked as a 4-star prospect in my rankings and the number 30 overall prospect in the state. When we look at his recruitment, things really started to heat up following a junior day visit in February of 2019 to TCU and Gary Patterson. After visiting on the junior day in February, Barron committed just a couple of weeks later, citing that Patterson's track record of developing players was a big reason for his decision. Yet a little more than a month later, Barron backed out of his commitment to Patterson, primarily because his offer list started to take off shortly after his commitment, with the likes of Oklahoma State, Tennessee, and Arizona jumping into the mix. Before his decommitment, he actually took an unofficial visit to the 40 acres, although the Longhorns didn't offer. Fast forward to June 22nd, and Barron announced his commitment to Baylor. From that moment on, all the way through the rest of signing day, Barron was solid as a rock to the Bears, even in the aftermath of the departure of Baylor head coach Matt Rule. Things changed for Barron in April as he asked for Baylor to release him from his national letter of intent. Quote, "Thank you to the Baylor Nation for embracing me," he said on Twitter. "Today, I requested an official release from my NLI to Baylor and will begin looking for a new school to pursue my athletic dreams and career goals." 8 days later, Barron committed to Tom Herman's Texas Longhorns. Flipping Barron was a huge win for defensive backs coach Jay Valai, who had only been in Austin for a few months when he landed Barron. Barron was the 20th and final signee to a 2020 recruiting class that finished 16th in the nation. While Bijan Robinson is famously remembered as the headliner of the class, Barron was one of the 3 lowest rated prospects in the entire group, according to Rivals.com. Of the 2 players ranked lower than Barron, one of them was none other than All-America linebacker Jalen Ford.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. See clear. All right, let's so we are clear. I don't know what your buy or sell question was. Sorry, our producers put that up there. So listen, I promise you this, see clear. I promise you, we'll find your buy or sell question, and then we'll get to it later in the show. Right? For you, see clear, since your question was so much better than the other ones. I want to see what the question was. Oh, here it is. Okay, buy or sell. Quinn is eerily like Garrett Gilbert. Ugh, that's not. I don't like that question. You think that question was better than the other ones? Like, no, I'm gonna sell on that. I don't. That's kind of a bad omen to a certain degree, right? I'm not gonna. I think I don't look at him, I don't look at him as a guy that is, I mean, I get the thought process and I get what you're trying to get at, but I don't see him as a guy that's going to have to end up at SMU and, or anything to that effect. I think that he's got a good high trajectory. So no, I'm selling on that. And now, yes, you are my man. You're my dude, but and I say this with all love and with all due respect, that question was horrible. I just want to let you know, with all due respect, that question was horrible. You should not have asked me to put that on the screen, because now my producers, I feel like they were trying to save you. Like, I feel like they were trying to do you a solid. And yet what you did was no. I want everyone to see my bad question. Damn it, Anwar. Why did you not put up my bad question? And so you got what you wanted. We got to see your bad question. See Claire, you're my guy. You're my guy. And as family, I can tell you, because I got to be honest, that was one of the worst questions I've received probably since I started the show, if not the worst. All right, I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with C. Claire, but it was a bad question. All right, let's do some social media standouts. Let's go ahead and lighten the mood and keep it light. We're having a good time. C. Claire, don't get mad at me. Don't come looking for me. Don't make me pat the guns or anything like that. But here's our social media standout, and congratulations to Serenity Douglas, who just announced that she's excited to announce that she has joined the KYTX CBS 19 sport team, covering everything in East Texas and bringing you all the latest Beast Texas updates. What's all the East Texas football hype about? Serenity doing the darn thing. She has been able to go from Orangebloods. She's working for a station out there in Wisconsin. She sent me a text message last week to let me know that she was going to be coming back to Texas, back there in East Texas. So congratulations to her. Is she gets ready to kind of get to learn more about East Texas football, all the legacies that's in there. And it's great to see, her doing good things in her career, for her, getting her start here. And then when things went kind of taught to her when she got the job and we offered her the job, it's like, hey, this will be kind of the springboard, for other things. This will be you kind of getting some reps, getting some reps underneath you, and then being able to take that somewhere else. And then when she had the job offer in Wisconsin, we talked about that for a long period of time. And I was like, listen, you got to view this like you're doing a bid. Like, you just got to view it like, man, you got to do your time. Like, you got to get some more reps. You got to do your time. And I say, it's not going to be pretty. You're not going to love it. You're not going to have a social life. This is what it looks like coming out of college. Like, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but keep grinding, get your reps up. You got to be an anchor and then go from there. And so now she's continuing her ascent. And, who knows, probably a few years from now, then when she's on a Sports Center anchor, we're going like, man, I remember when Serenity used to work at Orangebloods and OB Live and all that other kind of stuff. So congratulations, Serenity. You got nothing but love and support from all of us here. And of course, from me. All right, let's do another one. Let's check another one of our social media standout. This was, did you guys see this? This dude decided, he's a Texas Tech fan, and he decided that he was going to do the horns down. He's decided to get a horns down tattoo on his thigh, which why are you getting a horns down tattoo to even start with on your thigh? Doesn't even make any sense. You're being young and dumb. And then, of course, Scoop Harris has to point out some of the obvious thing that this young man kind of forgot. He goes, but it's right side up to him. So every time he looks at it, he's actually going to be seeing the hook 'em horn sign, as opposed to when everyone looks at him, then they'll be seeing the horns down sign. Like, where, I understand living rent-free in someone's mind, but who lives so rent-free in someone's mind that you have to get it tattooed on your body? Like that, there's things in life that I don't care about, and there's teams that I don't care for, but the last thing I'm going to do is get said team tattooed on my body in some sort of disparaging way, as if I'm showing someone something. Like, if you want to get a horns down t-shirt, okay, I mean, you want to wear it out with your friends and make it kind of fun. Like, that part I get. Like, that part makes sense. But if you're just going to get a horns down tattoo, Dar was like, my exes. Great point, right? I'm not getting into my ex's names tattooed on me. And then you guys know there's enough. There's enough. I can do a sleeve with all my exes, with all my ex-wives. I can do a sleeve all the way around here. It's like that DMX song was like, it was Keisha, Monica. Like, it just keeps going around like that. That's could be mine. But I wouldn't do that. But nonetheless, this is what this person does. Texas Tech fans are really a true and unique bunch, to say the least. And I think that's saying it kindly. When I try to think of the most interesting fan bases in the Big 12, Texas Tech is someone said trash. I don't want to go trash, but they're a crazy bunch of people. I'm not gonna lie. They are crazy fan base. But do you know how crazy they are? When they see this video, I'm gonna get nothing but tweets from them all afternoon long because they're that upset. That's how crazy Texas Tech fans are. All right, let's do another one. Let's just do another one. I know South fans don't just say it. You say it. I won't say it. Let's do another one. It's funny, we kind of talked about this a little earlier. So, Coach, this week, they go ahead and name Casey Thompson as the starting QB. And, of course, Doc Texas has to joke and says Tom Herman names Casey Thompson the starter only 6 years later. I mean, props to you, Casey, and props to you, Tom. I mean, like, and good luck to you guys down there at FAU. But it is a long time later. Like, there's putting the band back together, and then there's this. Like, this is really, really just putting the band back together after being apart from each other for such a long period of time. And by the way, does Darwin wants to know, does FAU have a better NIL deal than UT? Yeah, that's the unfortunate part about Casey. I think if Casey was just a football player and didn't have a little bit of the extra prima donna, and I say this as a Casey fan. Like, you guys know, I was a huge Casey fan, but Casey made it hard to support Casey just because of all the extra stuff. Like, all right, you go and answer the transfer portal, and you're going to go to Oklahoma and go start classes over there, and then you're going to come back. Like, you're kind of a little prima donna-ish here. Then you leave. He did the worst thing. And Darren's right. He did a thing that you're not supposed to do, which is he kind of spoke bad about his other program. And I don't think he meant it in a bad way, but when he starts thinking about, I got more NIL opportunity in Nebraska, and these guys are driving these kind of cars and all this kind of stuff, like, damn, Casey, just play ball. Just play ball. And then things didn't work out with him in Nebraska. Now he's at FAU. I mean, look, Darren, answer your question. There's clearly a reason why Casey is not using one of his multiple degrees at this point to go and actually just get a job somewhere. So clearly he's got some NIL that's keeping him alive. So yeah, that is probably true, but definitely not better than Texas, obviously. All right, let's do a couple more. How many more do we have, Aaron? Okay. All right, guys, are you guys ready? Everybody in the chat, get ready to do this. Name a color without the letter E. Go. Name a color without the letter E. I want to see the first person that can get this one for me. Colors, man. You guys are going on the spectrum and stuff like that. Give me go. Okay, Blake has got indigo. Right there. Give me colors, because I went. You can't go red. You can't go green. Right? You can't. I see black in there. Right? Blue. You got blue is already out. Yes. This is. I'm telling you. This is a brain teaser of a question. If you want to mess with someone, do something like, hey, name a color without the letter E. I'll give you 5 seconds and bet a shot, right? Just bet a shot with somebody on this. I think this would be a great drinking game. I'll bet you a shot. You can't name a color without the letter E within 5 seconds. 5 seconds. But all right, let's do a couple more. We got two more. So Tracy goes rainbow. Well, that's a good one. Bike went pink. This is another one. This is kind of evil. This was kind of evil, though. Hannah found this one. She found this one as she battles Billy Lucci every damn day. It's all on Twitter. That's all they do, which is kind of funny to watch. I'm here for it all. This guy Lee Ring tweets out something, goes, it's football in the SEC, regardless of age, we show no mercy. And he does a horns down to a kid. His kids, maybe, and I have kids, so he's not older than 2 years old. You can see it looks like about 18 months or so, 20 months or so. And then he's doing a horns down to a child. And so she says nothing screams Texas is irrelevant like throwing horns down to a random boy wearing a Longhorn shirt. You can't do that to a kid. Kid doesn't know what's going on. Like, you're gonna talk smack. Like, do that to a grown man. Like, do it to his dad. Like, that's what would have impressed me. Would impress me. Do it to his father. Let daddy know, like, hey, you put that thing on your kid. I'm not feeling it at all. Horns down to you, like, and then see what dad just goes ahead and jacks you up. Like, that's there. All right, let's do. We got one more, Aaron. All right, let's do one more. This is from Eli Letterman. He goes, an interest. This will be for you guys this is some OU stuff for you guys that have fun with. An interesting note from OU camp. If you walk into the Sooners practice facility, you will see players wearing t-shirts with the word finish across the front and the date 12/2/23 on the back. Anyone know what's going down in Arlington on the first Saturday in December? So at Oklahoma, they are wearing t-shirts with the words finish with the date of the Big 12 championship game on the back of the shirt. Now, you guys are clever. I know you guys are clever. I want to know from your perspective, what should really be on that shirt for them? You tell me what should really be on that shirt and what date should be on that shirt for them as well, because that's exactly what we need to know. As far as that's concerned, give me what should be on the shirt and what the date should be as well. All right, let's do a quick pause for the calls. I'll see if Ari Tempkin is ready to go. Like he's getting in here, so let's do a quick pause, and then when we come back, I'm going to bring back reunion show Ari Tempkin. See you guys in a second.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback takes a look at maybe the best thing Charlie Strong ever produced for the Texas football program. What is that, you ask? Identifying Sam Ehlinger as the quarterback of choice for the 2017 recruiting class and then landing his commitment. For those who might not remember, Ehlinger finished as the nation's number 115th overall prospect in the 2017 Rivals recruiting rankings, the 17th best player in the state of Texas, and the number 5 dual threat quarterback in the country. While Rivals eventually came around on Ehlinger, I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit for ranking Ehlinger as a top 10 prospect in the state and the number 1 quarterback in Texas before he ever received a scholarship offer. SMU was technically the first school to offer Ehlinger, but it's important to note that right after the Mustangs came after him with an offer, Houston head coach Tom Herman followed. Not long after Herman offered, Ehlinger received his first Power 5 offer from Charlie Strong and the Texas Longhorns, an offer Texas fans had been anticipating since a terrific display by Ehlinger at the Texas Elite Quarterback Academy in mid-June. According to Ehlinger, Texas OC Sean Watson told him that they weren't going to offer any other quarterbacks in the 2017 recruiting class. Quote, "They're not going to offer anybody else," end quote, Ehlinger said. 9 days later, the lifelong Texas Longhorn fan, you might have heard about that over the years that followed, committed to the Longhorns. Quote, "Been a Longhorn since day one. I'm truly blessed to say that I'm committed to the University of Texas," Ehlinger announced on Twitter. There wasn't a lot to Ehlinger's recruitment for the better part of the next 16 months as he finished his junior season, competed at the Elite 11 finals going into his senior year, and then went on to begin his senior season in 2016 at Westlake without any distractions. Yet a thumb injury ended his senior season prematurely at Westlake, and it coincided with a horrible 5-7 year for the Longhorns that ended with Strong's dismissal. Suddenly, there was some doubt about his future for a day or two. Almost as soon as Tom Herman was announced as the Texas head coach, he met with Ehlinger to ensure that the player he first offered nearly a year and a half earlier, and before Texas ever offered, knew that he was at the center of all of his plans while on the 40 acres. Following that meeting, Ehlinger locked back into his commitment, and the rest is Longhorns history. Ellinger was the best part of a 2017 recruiting class that Ellinger often joked was nicknamed the shit stain class because of the small reputation it had upon its rival. It ended up being a class that produced 4 NFL players: Ellinger, Sam Cosmi, Taquan Graham, and Josh Thompson.
And welcome back. Jay War, I saw you had a question on there. So just you're asking about Sark's media availability. He will have started having his media availability on Mondays. So Mondays, typical time is what's going to be around 11 o'clock. So Sark will be there, and that'll be live on LHN or however else you watch it. But anyways, Sark will start on Mondays. They have some players who are speaking at 11 o'clock today. I won't be there because I'm not. I'm Ari and I have been 2 ships passing in the night, so I've just decided like I'll just worry about that when I need to worry about it. So let's do this. Let's go into the Speakeasy Lounge. Let's do a reunion with our main man Ari Tempkin. Ari, what is going on, boss man?
What's up, brother? How are you?
It's been a long time. Even the background has changed. That's how long it's been.
Yeah, I waited until I didn't have much of a YouTube presence in order to give myself a pretty decent YouTube background. Although it's too busy. I'm not a designer, so like I've had a good friend of mine is like an interior designer. He's like, you need to do a lot of different things with that. It's too busy. There's too much going on. So
no, it's interesting tile kind of thing. Now, is that soundproofing?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Exactly. So this is where I host my SiriusXM radio show, and you basically either need to have things on the walls or something like that. I mean, there just needs to be some way that the sound will bounce off the walls for it not to echo.
Yeah.
And like if you have wood flooring, you need like a rug or carpet. So yeah, that I could have put like pictures and stuff up, but thought like, yeah, those kind of look cool.
Okay. So, all right, how you been, man? It's been a while since you have been with us, right? It's been a while since I've seen you. It's been a while since we've done the show. I'm just kind of curious, how's life? How's the family? Before we start talking about Big 12, I just want to check on you.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's good. I'm celebrating my 38th birthday today. So
happy birthday, man.
Thank
happy
you.
Birthday to you.
Thank you. But yeah, things are good. They've got my son Asher started 2nd grade last week, and I've got another kid finishing up his last year in preschool, which is great. And yeah, man, excited to be on with you. Excited for what you guys have been doing with OB. It's really cool. You know, you guys launched the YouTube channel. I got involved to help it grow, and what you guys have done is awesome with this lineup. It's so cool, and there's like there's a lot of competition now in this space, which is great for fans because there's a lot of options to choose from. And, you know, look, I mean, I think a rising tide lifts all boats. And so it's really cool to see that there's so much good content out there in this space for Texas. And it almost is like there can't be enough because there's so much. Yeah. There's so much going on with the University of Texas. So it's awesome. Congrats to you guys for launching this. By the way, I love the name of the show. Somebody that's a big time bourbon drinker. Love the old fashioned. So I dig it, man. It's awesome.
Well, I appreciate it, Ari, all the work that you put in and, you know, helping us try to get from where we were to helping us grow the channel. And then, you know, it was fortunate that you had to go, but then as it continues to grow, you can still feel like, hey, you was a part of that, you know, and that, you know, you feel like that was part of your baby as well. So thank you. So Ari,
shout out to Blake Skaggs too, by the way, behind the scenes. I worked with Blake and he's still doing it up big. So
yes, Jeff Ketchum has popped into the
GK.
chat as well. So which means
I miss you guys. You guys.
We had a lot of fun. You know, just got you guys know real quick, but Ari's, if you don't remember, you weren't around, Ari was working with us as a producer. And then, of course, he was doing on-air stuff with us as well. He came in and gave us a lot of good, unique ideas on how to grow the channel. And you really helped Jeff and I out, you know, a ton. You know, so I appreciate, you know, everything that you do. I still think of some of the things that you did and tell us to do and still implementing them. So thank you. So let's get into the Big 12. All right. There's a lot of talk about Texas, Ari. And you know all the hype. You deal with it every single day on your radio. Oklahoma State as your number one team. I think they may have been joking about that.
They weren't. They were not.
All right. Well, Ari, the floor is yours. I don't need to say anything else. You're a pro. You know what I'm going to ask you and why I'm going to ask you this. Ari, please explain this to me. You got Oklahoma State as your number one team in the Big 12.
Yeah, if you looked at the preseason poll, there was a number next to Oklahoma State that said 1, and so I was the one idiot that voted, that picked Oklahoma State to win the conference. Shout out to Paxton who put that in the comments. I feel like, and when Jeff and Chad, like the first day of the launch of the new channel with all the shows, I was in Jeff and Chad's show for a little bit because I worked back in the day at 104.9 The Horn, and Ketch and Chad Hastings had a show together. So I thought it was so cool that they're back together. Like, that's awesome. And like people in the, so I'm in the comments, people are like, oh, there's the idiot that picked Oklahoma State to win the conference. And it's like this, there is going to be a surprise team in the Big 12 this year. It's a fact. It's been a conference of parity. It's going to continue to be a conference of parity. Texas is going to be at the top of this conference. I have no doubt about that, but there's going to be a surprise team. So I tried to identify who that surprise team is going to be. I might be very wrong. I very much could be very wrong. I actually picked Bedlam for the Big 12 championship. Sorry, Texas fans, but it'd be a perfect ending to this era of the Big 12. Obviously Texas galvanized so much of the attention in this conference. So sort of turning the attention to Oklahoma State for one last hurrah, I think would be really, really cool in terms of like the poetry of the conference. But, ultimately the reason I went with Oklahoma State, say over a Texas, just goes back to coaching. And, for me, it's okay. You've got Sonny Dykes, who just had an incredible year one at TCU, but it's just 1 year. You've got Joey McGuire, who had a really good year one at Texas Tech, but it's still 1 year. You've got Brett Venables, 1 year at Oklahoma, wasn't great, but and then there's Sark, and there are a lot of unknowns about Sark, in terms of his ability to win 9-10 games in a season. Now, maybe the Texas talent is so big and so good that it transcends the coaching piece here. But I just defaulted to a guy that's consistently won in this conference. Now, granted, he struggled to beat Oklahoma. I get it. And has only won one conference championship. I get it. But I guess I went more with, okay, who could be the surprise team? Because there's going to be one. Let's go with the coach that's a known commodity here. And I do like Alan Bowman, even though he hasn't been named the starter yet. That doesn't look great. But I think a guy that's kind of back with his roots, grew up in Grapevine, had this, has this history with Texas Tech that was, pretty successful. Granted, he did have some injury issues, but he's 24 years old. He's got the experience. I just think there's a buy low on Oklahoma State that I liked, but I recognize that I, went on an island here and certainly, like when I was covering the Longhorns in Austin, we talked about the talent that they had, and yet like David Ash was starting at quarterback, and like, that's not a knock at David Ash. It's like, look at the talent level we thought Texas was at in that decade versus like, no, this is a high level of talent that's at Texas that's well beyond what we thought. So I recognize Texas is really good, especially up front. I think they've got 3 offensive linemen that are NFL players. They have the best wide receiving core in college football, I would argue. I'm not worried about the running game. I'm not worried about the quarterback position, even if Quinn Ewers isn't the guy. I think it's fine. So, like, there are very few concerns with Texas. For me, it was like, do I trust Steve Sarkisian to get them over the hump this year? That was my biggest reason to not pick Texas.
So can I give you another one for you, Ari, to ponder as far as a surprise team? And I know your vote's already cast, okay? But Baylor, okay? Look, 2016, Baylor's 7-6. The following year, in 2017, they're 1-11. 2018, they're 7-6. Then the following year, they go to 11-3. But let's go here: 11-3, 2-7, 12-2, 6-7 last season. Like, if there's ever an up and down team, like right. Baylor's kind of up and down. Again, if you want to count, like, again, that 7-6 and 11-3 as success, sure, so be it. But to me, Baylor would be the team that I would look at And again, Aranda, he's gone 2-7, 12-2, 6-7. It seems like this would be the year for Aranda, like if history shows us anything, for this to be about bounce back year for Baylor. Just thoughts on them.
Yeah. Baylor is the biggest wild card in this conference. I mean, I could see a situation in which Baylor wins 10 games. I could see a situation in which Baylor wins 5 games. Look, I picked Baylor to win the conference last year. I went with what a lot of people thought. I had Blake Shapen as my offensive player of the year, the preseason poll last year. Not ashamed to admit it. So, obviously take the Oklahoma State pick with a grain of salt. I thought this was fun. I thought we were supposed to have fun with our preseason polls. This isn't like the Heisman Trophy where it kind of matters, right? But I buy it on Baylor. The thing with Aranda, he's so interesting. He's such an introspective coach. I sort of, I wondered this after his first season. Like, is he too smart to be a football coach? What I mean by that is, like, he's such a deep thinker. He's so introspective. I just wonder how that plays in the locker room because it's so unique. It's so unlike anything we really see in college football. I mean, you ask him a very simple question and he gives you a very complex answer. So I guess my question is, like, how well does that play in the locker room? Now, they won a Big 12 championship. So obviously it plays well enough to get that far. For me, their issues last year were on the outside. They just didn't have the weapons to take advantage. They had a good running game, but I think they got into a situation where teams were like, okay, we're going to outscore you. We'll let you have yours in the running game. We don't think you can pass the ball well enough on the outside to outscore us. And that's what happened. And so have they improved their weapons on the outside enough? Because they just didn't have enough there that took the pressure off of their running game. They have a really good running game. Now you do lose Siaki Ika in the middle of your defense. So how is that defense going to be? The other thing I like about Aranda a ton is he's not afraid to make changes. So, I mean, he worked with Ron Roberts forever and he felt like, okay, Roberts is a guy that's sort of a senior to him in a way that Aranda worked for Roberts at one point. So he felt like he couldn't have some of the conversations he needed to have with Ron Roberts that he needs to now have with the defensive coordinator. And obviously this is a part of the team that he oversees more so than anybody. So I'm with you, Anwar. Like but I could see Baylor going either way because I could see it blowing up if they just don't have the weapons on the outside. I love Jeff Grimes, their offensive coordinator, and they again will have a good running game, but you're just not going to win big enough in this conference consistently unless you have a robust passing game to complement your running game.
Ari Tempkin, obviously from Sirius XM Radio, who's not making a lot of fans today at this moment. So, but nonetheless, Ari, the other thing though, K-State is a defending champ. Like, I feel like that they become the afterthought in this conversation when we start talking about teams. And I feel like K-State must be there in Manhattan. Like, hey guys, hello, we're still here. Like, we beat TCU in the championship game. Like, we had a really good season. Kleiman's got to be feeling pretty good about that. They've lose some components, obviously, and they do some key things, on the defensive side of the ball to get first round pick, and of course Deuce Vaughn. But K-State, I mean, are we sleeping on them by any chance?
Well, and I just also want to address JD's comment too, where he asked if there was so much parity when OU ran off 6 straight championships. No, but over the last 3 seasons, there's been an insane amount of parity. Things change. And so you have to recognize that what we saw over that period of time is a lot different than what we see today and have seen. Texas might have that same level of talent. In fact, they might have more talent, but when OU was in that run, there's a track record there where you could trust. With Sark, I'll believe it when I see it. Again, I also recognize that maybe it's not about the coaching as much as it's like they have so much talent that will transcend it. In terms of K-State, you're absolutely right. In fact, when I went through the exercise of trying to identify who I thought would be that surprise team, and I went through like coaching across the board, and like all these coaches are in year 2. For me, it was I didn't really have anything to say about Kansas State. Like we power ranked the top 5 coaches of the Big 12 today, and I have Chris Kleiman as the number 1 coach. And as a KU alum, it's really hard for me to recognize that. I mean, Kansas State is such an interesting program because there have been few that have won as consistently as they have, going back to the Bill Snyder era and now to Chris Kleiman, like with a few at the end of the Bill Snyder era and in the transitional period. But beyond that, I mean, the amount of 10-win seasons they had, the success that they've had, I mean, this is like when people ask me who's sort of set to take over in recruiting and be the top dog of the Big 12 after Texas and OU leave, it's weird because the answer should be K-State because they've already done it, but yet this appears to be their ceiling. Are they ever going to recruit at a higher level, right? I mean, are they ever going to be in that top 10, top 15, top 20 range? Probably not. This is where they're going to be, but yet they're always going to be a program that's developmental, that gets the most out of their players. Now, they do lose their best player on offense, their best player on defense from last year in Deuce Vaughn and Felix Anudike-Uzomah. But there's no reason to think that Kansas State shouldn't be competing towards the top of this conference. You know, as much as there's been offseason talk about my guy, Jalen Daniels, I think people are sleeping on Will Howard. I mean, Will Howard is the guy that stepped in for Adrian Martinez last year and led Kansas State to a Big 12 championship. And I was very impressed with what I saw last year from Colin Klein in his first year as the offensive coordinator. I mean, they really shifted dramatically what they were doing offensively in the middle of the season with Adrian Martinez, and they were very much ground and pound, and Adrian just didn't want to take chances down the field. He was so gun shy. And so they were very much could not unleash the full firepower of their offense until Will Howard took over. And when they did, that's when they really unleashed the beast, so to speak. And, they do lose firepower on the outside. They do lose Deuce Vaughn. Now, Trayshawn Ward comes in from Florida State. He's been a guy that I think in his career at Florida State is averaging like 6 yards a carry. I don't know that if he's in the same role as Deuce Vaughn, if he's still at that high of a yards per carry basis, but he's similar in terms of a back. And now I think they're going to put more of their offense on the quarterback. They've had to put so much of their offense on Deuce Vaughn. He was an entire offensive ecosystem unto himself. So now it'll be interesting to see kind of how they, transition this offense to more of a passing type offense. And then defensively, you lose Felix Anudike-Uzomah, but you still have some really good linebackers. I mean, I think you still have some girth up front. Like I think Kansas State, in terms of their ability to get the most out of their talent, is a team that we could trust, especially with Chris Kleiman. And then their quarterback room, one of the more underrated ones in the country. So behind Will Howard, you've got, a couple of 4-stars that have come in the last 2 years, including the true freshman Avery Johnson, who's the number one player of the state of Kansas coming out. And, so he's behind him. He's I think going to be third, or Jake Rubley, who's a 4-star who came out the year before. So some talented quarterbacks behind Will Howard, one of the more underrated quarterback rooms in the conference.
Aaron, Darwin asks a really interesting question because you bring up a really good point, and I do want to circle back to the Sark thing that you talked about. But Darwin asks, he wants to know, do you think the overall recruiting in the Big 12 Bowl will suffer with UT and OU? Because you asked and the question I hadn't thought of is like, well, who becomes the recruiting top dog in the Big 12 when this is all said and done? I'm like, I don't know. Who's going to be the higher ranked of them? Was it UCF? Like, I don't know who gets the benefit of it, but I'm curious to your thought process is like, who does become the kind of recruiting top dog, and does Texas and OU leaving hurt some of these other programs?
It's a great question, Darwin. Big 12 bloated? What is that supposed to mean? What is that? Just a bunch of mids? Is that what we're calling it? Come on, be nice on your way out. All right. I can't believe it is a miracle the Big 12 survived this. And it's a lot of it has to do with the hubris of the Pac-12 for why it was able to, and we should be celebrating the Big 12 for surviving it, because it looked very bleak in the immediate aftermath of the decision by Texas and OU a couple of years ago. Recruiting will suffer, but I guess I don't know how much, because did Texas and OU recruiting at the level that they recruit at help the other teams in the Big 12 recruit? I don't know. If it did, it didn't seem to have much of an impact, right? Because the only teams that were consistently recruiting at a top 10, top 20 level in this conference are Texas and OU. So how much of an impact has it had? So like UCF is a good example of this, because recruiting for Texas Tech and TCU and Oklahoma State is similar to UCF. If you're in the state of Texas, your 5 and your 4-stars are going to Texas and OU. In the same way, in the state of Florida, your 5 and for the most part, your top dogs are going to go to Florida and Florida State. So the kids that fall through the cracks, that's who go to UCF. Those are the guys that go to Tech. Those are the guys that go to TCU. Those are the guys that, go to Oklahoma State and Kansas, and on and on and on. So I think that will continue to happen. But I do wonder Like, will there be a TCU or, I mean, Texas Tech could be that team simply because of the history of Joey McGuire. And I mean, he's already recruited at a high level. He's obviously got his roots in Texas high school football. So there's a good lifeblood to recruiting there. Look, at the end of the day, the best kids in the state are still going to go to Texas and OU. But if you are able to pull a few of them to go to TCU, if you're able to pull a few of them to go to Texas Tech, that will obviously impact recruiting in the conference overall. But I just don't know that I buy the argument that Texas and OU helped Big 12 recruiting, because there's really not much evidence to support that. None of those programs have consistently recruited at top level. I don't know what that looks like moving forward. I mean, to me, it seems like it should be more of the same. You're probably looking at like 25, 26 as being some of the higher, rated programs in this conference, but maybe it will have an impact positively on the conference. The other thing too is, like, there are other factors that are impacting this moving forward, right? Like there's been tremendous change in college football over the last few years that will all have an impact on this. Conference realignment is going to play a role in this. So too is NIL, the transfer portal. So I think there's just a bunch of factors here that are going to change the recruiting dynamics. But I mean, again, Texas is still going to recruit the kids that they want in the state, along with Georgia and Alabama and OU and Texas A&M. And the same will be true for Florida, right? Like the SEC is still very much heavily recruiting the state. So we'll see kind of, I think it's hard to gauge where we are in 5 years in terms of recruiting.
Last thing I'll ask you, Ari, and I will let you go. So I'll go back to kind of how you started. So you talked about seeing is believing as relates to Sark in this season. So I want to know, from your opinion, what's your definition of success for Texas and Sarkisian this season? Like when you look back and you say that will be a successful season, in Ari Tempkin's view, what boxes need to be checked?
They've got to get to Arlington. The talent level that they have across the board and comparatively to the rest of the conference, the guy that mentioned, hey, was there so much parity in the league when OU won 6 straight? Like, he's right. Like, the discrepancy in talent here between Texas and everybody else is so large that I think anything less than getting to Arlington would be a significant disappointment. And look, there's reason to expect that is going to happen this year. And the only thing that would get in the way of that is their schedule. And I think that's the one thing I didn't mention with Oklahoma State or Oklahoma. Both of those programs have really easy schedules relative to Texas. That's the part, like, forget about the Alabama game. In conference, the draw that Texas got, that makes things a little bit more muddled when it comes to this conversation, because it's not, we just have this default of like everybody plays the same schedule because that's how it's been for a long time now in this conference. And that's not the case. So that's the one thing that gives me pause about this team. But I mean, this is the same. I started in Austin, my first year at the Horn was basically the beginning of the end. Right after they lost to Alabama, it was my first year in Austin, and it's the same conversation. And Anwar, you've been there a long time now too. Mm-hmm. Like, it is Groundhog Day over and over and over again. New kids, new recruits, new coaches, brand new coaching staff, same results. So, maybe it's just a factor of the talent level here is so much larger than what it was, even though we thought the talent level then a decade ago was what it is now.
Ari Tempkin, tell everyone how they can follow you on Twitter, talk about the show. You got 1 billion shows, Ari, so feel free to list them. We can just post your LinkedIn and we can just go from there. But go ahead and tell everybody, give them the details.
No, appreciate that, Anwar. Follow me on Twitter at Ari Sports. Make sure to talk a bunch of smack if and when I'm wrong about Texas this year, and of course Oklahoma State. Appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate GK and all the great work you guys are doing at OB. Love it. Love to see the growth of it. You guys are doing a fantastic job. Keep it up, man. And let me on anytime you need.
All right. Thank you, Ari Tempkin, guys. I appreciate you. Thank you, Ari, for joining the show. Let's go ahead and do a quick pause, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this thing up, as Ketch would like to say, a ribbon and bow on this whole darn thing. So let's go to a quick pause, and we'll be right back.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the best recruits from the Charlie Strong era, wide receiver Devin Duvernay. Duvernay was one of the top prospects that the Longhorns signed in the 2016 recruiting class, but his pathway to the Longhorns was as unconventional as anyone in that class or almost any other. The number 52 overall player in the country, number 5 player in the state of Texas, and number 8 wide receiver in the country per Rivals, the high 4-star super blue chip had one doozy of a recruitment. Before he attended a Texas Junior Day in February of 2015, he told Orangebloods' Jason Sukumel that the Longhorns were front and center in his recruitment. Quote, "They're in it. I like Texas. Grew up liking Texas," Duvernay said. "When I've been there, I like them. With the new staff, I like what they're doing. I think the program will be back pretty soon." Yet Baylor, the first school to actually offer Duvernay a scholarship, was always a school that had his attention. It also had his brother Donovan's attention as well, as he made the jump to commit to Baylor in September of 2015. 2 months later, Devin joined him, choosing the Bears over Alabama, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. That's right, no Texas among his initial group of finalists. That was pretty much that for Duvernay, as he signed in February of 2016 with the Bears. But Duvernay decided to explore other options after a sexual assault scandal surrounding the Baylor program and the subsequent firing of head coach Art Briles. It was later discovered that Duvernay's national letter of intent was never properly submitted by Baylor, making him immediately open to other programs. After not having the Longhorns among his original finalists, Duvernay signed with the Longhorns in June of 2016. And once Baylor released his brother, he also joined the Longhorns' 2016 recruiting class. When it was all said and done, Baylor's loss turned out to be one hell of a game for the Texas football program, who added one of the best receivers in school history.
All right, man. Please hit that like button as well. And Tom G, very, very good question that you were able to get in. So props to you, Tom. I appreciate you. But thank you for Chris Delcani for joining the show, being so gracious to join the show. Hope we can do like an annual thing before the season. He's going to be around for a long time, so we appreciate that. And of course, I love it because he pronounces my name correctly. We didn't have to do a shot. We got to do shots when people say Anwar. So we're pretty good on that. Mike Hardge joined the show, obviously, and appreciated him and his insight. We'll have him back on soon. And then, of course, Ari Tempkin giving us some Big 12 stuff and how to kind of wrap that thing up. The Oklahoma State thing, kind of weird. If he ends up being right, then, I mean, he called his shot. But he said he kind of – but when he said, like, I thought it was supposed to be fun, then I'm like, well, did you really mean it? So I don't know. But Ari Tempkin is still the man, and we really obviously appreciate him. So, all right, some programming notes so everyone knows. Coming up at noon on the show, we've got Jeff Ketchum and Chad Hastings, House Divided. That's coming up from 12 to 3 Central Time. After that, 3:30 p.m., we've got Football with Friends. That's right, Football with Friends with our main man, Alex Dunlap, getting to see all of the Alex Dunlap personality that he is. And tonight at 9 o'clock this evening, the OB Outsiders, Bo Edge, Chance Mock, the whole crew bringing that stuff for you. We've got nothing but Longhorn /football /fantasy football /fun topics all day long. Do not go anywhere. Just hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm just being told that on the Outsiders tonight, guess what? Roy Williams is going to be a guest on the Outsiders tonight. So at 9 o'clock this evening, Roy Williams will be a guest on the show. So you don't want to miss that one at all. We're working hard for you guys every single day. So make sure you check out all this amazing content. Thank you to Blake. Thank you to Aaron for producing behind the scenes. Thank you for everyone else for joining the show. And thank you for being in the chats today from start to finish. You guys, especially all you guys who started and stayed to the entire thing, thank you. And make sure you go back and check out the different parts of the show that you may have missed if you joined us late. All right, I am done for the day. It's time for me to go get some lunch. Thunder Clouds is calling my name. So you guys know what I always say, live each day like it was your last, because one day it will be. We'll talk